Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committee meeting for Wednesday, June 14, 2023. All council meetings will continue to be live streamed on the city's website. Our first order of business is roll call. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Reverend Burgess. Mr. Coghill.
Here.
Ms. Gross.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mrs. Cal-Smith. Ms. Strasburger.
Here.
Ms. Warwick.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle Chair.
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you. Our next order of business is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before city council, and profanity will not be permitted. After you recall, please restate your name and neighborhood. For the record, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Our first registered speaker is Naomi Mullen.
Here, I honor my husband, who is a true City of Pittsburgh servant of the public, from the 1970s until 2021. Shady trees, not shady deals in Bon Air. This is for you, Michael. The Pennsylvania Constitution is titled the Declaration of Rights. The entire article is concerned with establishing the principle that people are the sovereigns, not the state, which would include municipalities and school boards. They shall not harm the people or will be held accountable. Former Mayor Peduto was selected to be a member of the global group of mayors. It is clear that he disgraced himself with initiatives and actions that call into question his loyalties to our city, state, and country. How dare he appoint a board that said the detrimental school building should remain? They did not care about the property value and quality of life issues that harm Bon Air with this building. The city controller is the fiscal watchdog for the citizens of Pittsburgh. It is the job of the controller to protect city tax dollars from waste, fraud, and abuse. Michael Lamb should have attended our meeting to explain why the waste, fraud, and abuse continues. Waste of thousands of dollars per month is occurring with Bon Air School. Fraud was perpetrated with the claim of community support for the sale of the building to a developer. Abuse is occurring due to the threat of blockbusting and intentional infliction of distress. Why won't he advocate for we, the people who have been harmed by this detrimental building? Who does he serve? It is no wonder the issues with the school district persist. Checks and balances don't exist when the same person is the controller for the city and the Pittsburgh Public Schools. Is that a conflict of interest? The Memorial Green Space is the solution for the peace, safety, and happiness of the Bon Air community. The Pittsburgh Public Schools stated that WHO guidance was used when it closed the school for months. Why would a Pennsylvania school district use a private global club called the World Health Organization as the authority to shut down our tax-funded public school system? This points to further waste, fraud, and abuse. Sweden and Florida are 2 examples of superiority of business and educational outcomes. StopTheWho.com. No more global mayors or global Pittsburgh Public Schools decisions. StopTheWho.com. We do not consent to a detrimental building remaining to decay the community we have built. We, the people of Bon Air, have driven past former school buildings and heard the stories of human feces in hallways and criminal acts around those buildings. We, the people, say.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is Pomai Chakman Yahelihi.
Alexet Alakain. I am the Grand Inca Chief of the Onkwe Onwe Bakako Upsia Ushuil and Yinka Chief Council Member of the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People. I'm the Shaman Medicine Matriarch, creator of Cultural Oasis of 16 years, Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh's first Aboriginal American Indigenous Medicine, Apothecary Healing Space and Educational Center, and EPA, Aboriginal American Food, Forestry, Arts, and Culture. I was co-chair of the Urban Ed Working Group of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, and I'm an Indigenous member of Trolley, a partnership between Allegheny Land Trust and Grow Pittsburgh. I play an important role in assisting the URA creating the Farm Lot program and also the state for the urban agricultural grant legislation. I speak in the voice of my grandmothers as their heir to our ancestral lands. I, as my own, are the owners of the Americas by birthright, bloodline, and lineage, the same mud, the same blood. I stand to reclaim what was stolen, and our future generations will continue to reclaim, remediate, and restore what was destroyed by colonization, as we are raising them up in the truth of our stories, of the many wars fought against us by your ancestors, of the colonization, eugenics, and genocide done by your ancestors. I stand in support of the lawful citizens upholding their oath to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and excluding Indians not taxed, working with us in protecting, remediation, and restoration of our lands for future development in line with our cosmovision. Subject matter: foreigners may not even own our lands, yet are occupiers, squatters, renters, etc., under commercial law and administrative law, and not constitutionally. Notice the agent is notice the principles. Our rights are and shall be enforced with impunity. Those in violation shall be held accountable according to their oath to the Constitution. For our lineal descent of our people runs in our female line, and the law of ownership is that the soil of the earth from one end to the other is the property of the people who traditionally inhabit it by birthright, the Onwe. So this attention is to City Council, the URA, and the Land Bank, and we demand full disclosure and inclusion in decisions making moving forward with our lands here in the city of Pittsburgh, which is the Delaware territory still, and will always be that in our treaty with the Delawares. And I yield.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is Billy Vaughn, whom I do not see. So our next registered speaker is Ajadlib, I apologize, Ajadjib Chanel Kaim.
Greetings, and like Al-Qaim, I am an Aboriginal American matriarch, and my title is Yajalaji Chanel Kaim, located in the Delaware Territory, as you all will call it, Pittsburgh. My statements today are to invoke my people's constitutional indigenous rights. We are the original beings, the original stewards of our ancestral lands, the Americas, including the islands. And since there were colonizers traveled, invading our lands, it is stolen land and stolen resources. My people are recognized in multiple maxims of law and documents, such as the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and excluding Indians not taxed, the Delaware Treaty, the Northwest Ordinance, the ADRIP, the UNDRIP, House Congress Resolution 331, the 100th Congress Second Session, and the list continues. The city is under the jurisdiction of the state. The state is under the jurisdiction of the government. Are you going to honor your oath to the Constitution? Are you going to continue to commit 18 U.S. Code 2381, treason, 18 U.S. Code 1091, genocide? Are you going to continue forced assimilation, eugenics, colonization, causing my people to be prisoners of war, the Aboriginal Americans? Uphold your oath to the Constitution. Uphold your Ajatisca folk immigrant ancestors' oath to the Constitution. We are not to be confused with Title 25 Native Americans, who are the immigrants, the foreigners, and citizens naturalized under the jurisdiction of the United States, which is a corporation, aka a business. You are all on stolen land, and you are all obtaining our stolen resources. Are you going to continue to walk in the footsteps of your many nefarious ancestors, such as Walter Ashby Plecker, a physician, the first Virginia State Register of Vital Statistics from 1912 to 1946, a promoter of eugenics, a discredited movement nefariously pressuring state agencies to reclassify my people as so-called Indians, so-called colored, so-called black, so-called Negro, so-called African American. We are not immigrants. We cannot be from two places at once. Again, uphold your oath to the Constitution. I yield.
Thank you. That exhausts our list of registered speakers. If there's anyone in chambers wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Provide your name and neighborhood for the record. You will also be given 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. My name is Javon F. Brown. I live at 715 Mercer Street. That's up in the Hill District, the high rise up on Bedford. I came today to ask you to please help me get to Ghana. And this is my great-grandchild. My grandchild is her mother, Leisha. My great-grand is Kia, and she's 16. She wants to go study abroad in Ghana. I'm asking you to go fund me. When I talk to my granddaughter, she needs $10,000 to be able to go to Ghana. She would study a whole year over there. Now, I want you to remember, I had another grandchild that Reverend Grayson his group sent to Ireland. When she came back from another country, she was saying, I said, well, how was Ireland? She said, Grandma, they're poor like us. The neighborhood that they went to is poor like in the Hill District. Now, also, okay, I'm gonna leave the GoFundMe so that I'll hold it up. But I also want to say that I heard on the radio today, 90.5, about the PRT, the bus transportation. So you're doing it, they're gonna take it out in Oakland. But Oakland was already overserved. It had 2 buses. It would be 71 that would come to Oakland and go back out, and another one that would come to Oakland and go straight to town. So it was years ago, 2 bus drivers came to City Council and they were saying that there was gonna be a change and that we in the Hill District were gonna be disadvantaged. They were taking our buses away, and which they did. Now I live at the top of the hill, and we seniors, it's 190 apartments. In order to get to Mercy Hospital, we must take 2 buses, which is at the bottom of the hill where Mercy Hospital is. Now also, when I went to the PRT where they had downtown, you could go in there and you could write, you could speak about it. This is what they gave. They had a whole bunch of these. Now I didn't have a stroke. These things is for your hands. But if they can make all these things and send them out, and we can all get them, but I can't get a bus to the bottom of the hill. And this high-rise was started by K.B. Irvis. Now, PRT had 3 pages on this black man, 3 pages. He had 2 master's degrees. He was he studied law, assistant district attorney from here in Pittsburgh. He was assistant district attorney. What I'm saying is this man started the community college, the Human Relations Commission, and we can't have anybody to fight for the seniors that he built for us to have up there. I lived on the street with his aide, Miss Harbin, and she was saying that at that time, Salahuddin came on the scene. My time is up.
Thank you very much. Are there any further speakers wishing to speak? Any further speakers? Seeing none, that will take us to our standing committee agenda. Our first committee of the day is Finance and Law, chaired by myself. Our first new paper is Bill 1613.
Bill 1613, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to enter into an agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for airspace leasing, ownership, and maintenance obligations concerning certain pedestrian walkways and supporting structures constructed or to be constructed in the vicinity of the Glenwood Bridge interchange at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve, please.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1614.
Bill 1614, resolution authorizing the issuance of 8 warrants in the total sum of $275,000. It is further understood and agreed that the payment schedule of the total settlement amount shall be as follows: $19,533.54 payable to Nicole Ruley, $19,533.54 payable to Nicole Ruley as legal guardian of AF, a minor, $19,533.54 payable to Charles Bryant Jr., $19,533.54 payable to Simon Phillips, $19,533.54 payable to Donovan Hayden, $19,533.54 payable to Jennifer J. Yoder, $19,533.54 payable to Christopher Wilson Juring, and $138,265.22 will be issued to plaintiffs' attorneys O'Brien, Coleman, and Wright, LLC, for fees and expenses related to litigation in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania.
Motion to hold for executive session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
The bill will be held for executive session. Bill 1615.
Bill 1615, resolution providing for the sale of property acquired by the City of Pittsburgh at tax sales, items A through L. A, 5410 Kincaid Street. B, 6992 Leamington Avenue. C, 7135 Vassar Street. D, 342 Climax Street. E, 346 Climax Street. F, 1525 Abstract Avenue. G, 315 Fairview Avenue. H, 2016 Perrysville Avenue. I, 2435 Perrysville Avenue. J, 2707 Leland Street. K, 1406 Dixon Street. And L, 514 Ferrywood Street.
Motion to approve for discussion?
Second.
Second.
I think this is me being persnickety again, but don't we usually have the districts listed, which council district the properties are in? No?
No,
It's just me hallucinating then.
it's just the street addresses.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I was just trying to figure it out on my own. Appreciate it, that's
Just
all.
sewer modules.
Sorry?
Just sewer modules.
Just sewer modules are by district? Okay,
There's a note there for that.
okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1616.
Bill 1616, resolution repealing items and resolutions approved on various dates which authorize the sale of property in various wards of the City of Pittsburgh due to an incompletion of sale, items A through M. A, 1044 Premier Street. B, 415 North Graham Street. C, 123 Finley Street. D, 7146 Monticello Street. E, 7321 Race Street. F, 2434 Berg Street. G, 716 McLean Street. H, 430 Kingsborough Street. I, 960 and 962 East Warrington Avenue. J, 1815 Rialto Street. K, 1727 Warren Street. L, 3042 Frederick Street. M, 1506 and 1509 Nobles Lane.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1617.
Bill 1617, resolution providing for the conveyance by the City of Pittsburgh of certain property having been placed for sale to adjoining property owners in conjunction with the City of Pittsburgh Side Yard Program, items A through U. A, 12 Monaca Place. B, 750 Cherokee Street. C, 210 North Fairmont Street. D, 35 Carver Street. E, 6611 Lyric Street. F, 516 Lincoln Avenue. G, 0 Paxico Street. H, 7165 Arona Boulevard. I, 1351 Montezuma Street. J, 0 Edith Street. K, 2922 Banksville Avenue. L, 2102 R Lowry Street. M, 245 East Jefferson Street. N, 0 East Jefferson Street. O, 529 Marshall Avenue. P, 118 Bascom Avenue. Q, 51 Arundel Street. R, 2716 California Avenue. S, 0 California Avenue. T, 1412 Eckerd Street. And U, 324 Orchard Place.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Need a motion to approve the invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Invoices have been approved. Need a motion to approve the P cards?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? P cards have been approved. That takes us to Public Safety and Wellness Committee, chaired by Councilman Coghill. One new paper, Bill 1609.
Bill 1609, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into a professional services agreement with Operation Better Block for the purpose of spending grant funds in an amount not to exceed $2,145,449.82 to support the violence prevention programming in Pittsburgh Public Schools.
Motion to approve. Brief discussion.
Second.
Discussion,
I
Councilman?
really don't have any questions about it. I do want to know further as to what programs that money goes to, but I thought maybe if any other members had any questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Warwick.
Yeah, so, I mean, my understanding is that this came out of a pilot at Brashear, is that the high school? Yeah, that was very successful. I'm supportive. I just wanted to know how, because I know in my district, I have a very specific issue having to do with issues at the bus stop coming, and we have a meeting coming up to sort of come up with a solution, and I would love for this program to be part of that. So if there's anybody here who can let me know.
Mr. Jones is
Chief Frank is here, I believe, and Mr. Jones.
Great, yeah.
Chief Frank,
if you want to
if
come
you-
up.
Come on.
Yeah. Morning.
If you would both quickly just introduce yourselves for the record.
David Jones, Assistant Director of Public Safety.
Lisa Frank, the city's Chief Operating Administrative Officer.
Yeah, so I've gotten in touch with Operation Better Block. I've not heard back yet, but I just wanted to, I mean, you know, I have a very specific issue at Alderdice that I think this program could be at least part of the solution. So just to find out how I make sure that these resources, well, how it works and you know, how folks would be hired, et cetera, and make sure that we can get that going for this coming school year, because it would be great to sort of resolve the issue.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman. Alderdice is on our list of expansion schools. So essentially, how it works is that we will have outreach workers specifically in Alderdice all day, Monday through Friday. In addition, we will have student ambassadors to help with peer-to-peer relations.
Okay.
They are both, the workers are salaried and the students are stipend.
Okay.
To help quell any mediations or potential problems. As we saw from our pilot in Perry, that helps reduce hall walking, looting, and disruptive classroom behavior. So the principals can do that and teachers can teach.
Now, so, but also, so my understanding is called Safe Passages to School. So the specific issue at Alderdice is because the bus stop is so far away, and right now we have a car with 2 officers at the bus stop every day. It's not, I don't really like that. I don't think it's nice for the kids to have a police presence at their bus stop every day. I think it's, and so can this also be expanded to that, to sort of get them to and from the bus, and
So what we will
maybe on the bus too? I've heard that there may have been issues on the bus as well. I'm not
I can't
sure
speak to
about
the
that.
on the bus, but we
Yeah.
will continue to have outreach workers, our reach workers outside the schools. That happens, that's not on a daily basis, almost as needed. So the more that we communicate with each other, if we need the presence outside, for example, down at the Starbucks, that will happen.
Okay, and is there because we're actually going to have a call coming up. Sorry, this is sort of like the nitty gritty, but we're going to have a call in the next couple of weeks with PPS and PRT and et cetera to talk about this issue. Is who from this program should I get in touch with to?
Either myself or Mr. Tally Thompson.
Okay, I'll do that. Oh, that's all for me. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger?
I'd love to hear a little bit more about the results from the pilot. Just, you know, what we can expect as this expands to other schools.
So again, thank you for that question. As a result of the pilot at Perry, there was a reduction in fights. There was a reduction in students looting in the hallways, which is always a big problem. And as a result of the outreach workers being there, the lead, working with the ambassadors, it was just more conducive for people to be able to learn. And the principal was able to be principals and the teachers could teach.
Just a little bit more. So I feel like we talked about this when we were at the table last time. So, but forgive me if I'm saying something that you've already heard. But I think those are how we're measuring some of the results. I think the result also is to have kids who are headed in a direction that's not going to lead to great places, instead headed in a direction that is going to lead to great places, and that's really what the model is. So the program is based in the disease model of violence, and so if you think about a thing like a fight, right? It starts with two people having a fight, but then they've got friends, and then those friends pile in the fight. And then the fight after school moves outdoors, and here comes the brothers and the sisters, and so that's why it's like a virus. Mm-hmm. It gets bigger and bigger, and what the program does is to unwind that virus, and it does it by having trusted community leaders who are intervening. It does it by having, people, and then eventually it does it by stipending kids who maybe were headed in that direction but are now headed in the direction of being actual peacekeepers themselves. So I would say the real outcome of the program is that unwinding of violence and setting young people person by person on a path to something better than that. And then we can measure that in the reduction of fights, the reduction of people who are participating in any given fight should it happen. It's measured in attendance rates, which I think doubled at Perry. Do I have that right?
Yes.
So all of the measures, I think, show that we got people headed in a better direction.
And additionally, perfect example is our student ambassadors are taught to walk the other way when a fight happens, and to try to get their peers to walk the other way as opposed to walking towards a fight, which fuels the fire.
Yeah, if we're going to put significant money into something, I want to put it into something that has shown that it has positive results, and that sounds like this. And, I would imagine that an additional co-benefit is just the overall building of trust, right? So you go to school, it's a safe place, and you trust those who are in authority, in a position of authority, because it's working, you feel protected, you feel safe, you feel like you can learn. So I'd hope that that's the case too.
And our students are able to dream again, right? Because with all the trauma and all the fights,
Mm-hmm.
you're not able to dream, you're afraid,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's hard to do anything when you're afraid.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can speak to about how this might be tailored for every, additional school that's added to this program? I know that every person who's like a trusted student ambassador or trusted community member is going to look different. But is there a process by which we will identify like the specific needs of that school, that community that might differ from Perry?
Yes. So we've been in meetings with every school principal and their counselors to kind of start to pick who would be the best student ambassadors. Again, I was with Councilman Coghill at Brashear. There are some young men that we work with. Certainly some of them can be student ambassadors. So you kind of put eyes on them. You get the buy-in from the counselor or the administration. So every school will be different based on the needs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm also hoping that this has a ripple effect into the way that, say, outside funding is allocated, right? If there's less of a need for sort of the hardened security that we think of, that then that money can be allocated to the after-school robotics club that can then go on the field trip or whatever, right? Like, so it's that kind of thing too. I know in Alderdice there's going to be like tiny bits of spending from the PTO allocated to vape detectors in the bathroom. Like, is that really what we want to be spending money on, or do we want to spend it on the, on other items? So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this expands, and I know you'll report back to us on how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that I'm fully supportive of this program and how the money's being spent. I'm glad that we were able to get the first, bill passed where there was, for the grant for the city and Operation Better Block to go forward with that state grant. And I'm fortunate to have had the opportunity to have a very close connection with that pilot at Perry. Sorry, for some reason my voice isn't working today. But that said, when I was there, when I was invited to come and meet with the children, it was just very impactful to see how the outreach workers were working, doing their work, because we created as not a seminar, but basically a presentation for Learn to Earn to come. So it was right before last year, when they were signing up last year for that summer. And so that was impactful, because then we talked, what came out of that conversation was all the barriers with transit and, other barriers that they may have to seek employment in the summer. So I thought that was a great opportunity, and I could only imagine what other conversations are happening. So aside from just, that scenario was, okay, for the lunch period or 2 lunch periods, they're going and they're getting this,
Training, mediation.
this type of training, attention, like all types of, just basically whatever can be created during that time. And it's organized leadership that I'm seeing. So I'm happy to support this and to see it grow. And I would definitely reach out for other members to reach out to you all, but also Operation Better Block, the people that we're going to be contracting with, so that they can hear what you're hearing, essentially, I guess.
Thank you, Councilman.
So thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gross.
I didn't ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And I hope that, again, for the reasons the other members mentioned, that we can see demonstrable success. And so we're hopeful at this stage. But what I've heard today was kind of like there was more before and there's less now. And if there are metrics, we don't need them like right this second, but to know that there is a methodology in the measurement, especially as we're moving from a pilot phase and to a more widespread model, both because of the dollars, but also because these outcomes are so important. They're so important to us, and to our kids, and to the city as a whole. So I don't believe council has seen that. And there have been previous discussions about the Stop the Violence Fund, where we've asked if there is a methodology for data collection, for data analysis that is valid and reliable, which are the 2 key important facets of data collection. It's a waste if it's not measuring what you hope it's measuring, or you're not measuring it in a way consistently that you have reliable data. So I think if getting that to council, I would be interested in seeing it. So, but I'm hopeful and supportive today. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Just overall, aside from this program, I want to know what we're doing with violence across the city of Pittsburgh. And one of the things, I actually texted the mayor today, we had the committee to work on extending, and I know you took a trip, extending the use of the community centers, at least one north, south, east, west, and central of the city of Pittsburgh. So we do something to keep kids off the street. And I know in Sheridan, they have like 30 kids that are out there every day throwing rocks. And they're throwing rocks at a house that the guy has more guns than a gun store. So I'm thinking something horrible is going to happen here. I've gone down there myself and talked to the kids and got them off the street. And but there's no place to send the kids. There's no place to to invite the kids to, so they'll be safe, so they'll get a meal. Just something. And I just want to know what the status is. I actually sent the mayor a text this morning asking, what's the status? What are we doing in terms of violence across the city of Pittsburgh? Yesterday, in one district alone, we had about 5 or 6 shootings in one district, just one day. I mean, media is barely reporting any of it because, and I guess unless somebody dies, then it's not worth reporting. But the fact of the matter is, people are living in fear in their own communities, and it's not just isolated to downtown. So I know you took a trip. Could you give us any update on that?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
We went to Philadelphia, and we were able to talk with their council people, their chair people of those departments, and just to see how they were able to have the right people to help drive students, young people, to those said spaces. We visited a recreational center in North Philadelphia.
What do they do? How do they get the kids there?
Really, You need the right person. You need the right person in the community. They call them credible messengers to say, hey, we're doing things at council chambers. So please come. Come one, come all. There's trades, there's food. Food always helps
Yeah.
get people.
I worked for Pittsburgh Public Schools. I know that one.
Right. But you're also giving into the families as well. Right. So you need the right people, and we're trying desperately to get the right people in those spaces to help drive them to the organizations or the actual bricks and mortars to help everyone be a little bit safer.
Yeah, but you are considering it because school's over this week. And so do you have a time frame you're thinking about? I'm just worried because I'm telling you, I'm getting calls every day about Sheridan, Mount Washington, Elliott, and it's a lot of kids and a lot of people on the streets.
I was on a phone call this morning, actually, with Director Vargas, and you were in training. I'm like, where was David? He was in training today. Anyway, we're actually looking for a date for a kickoff in Phillips, where we've done the most to pull in the additional things and to figure out how to have the pool open at night or to be able to play basketball at night or something. And I think that'll happen very, very soon. And I think we have begun to get those resources set up in Ammon. So slowly we're working through inviting people, figuring out how to get them resourced to add those additional hours and have people co-located. GVI is already co-locating in the centers now, so
Red
that
Phillips says, yes, correct.
so that so it's partly expanding hours, it's partly bringing new services, and it's partly getting everybody to co-locate there, so that if you are a young person or a family and you turn up, you're not here, but over there is where your other thing is, and over there is where your other thing is. So we've made the most progress, I think, in Phillips, and I think we're looking for a date for a kickoff there, which of course you'd be invited to, and
I'm so glad that the group is continuing to work and that you're actually talking about opening. That's the bottom line for me, is I want to see what we're doing and getting some place for kids. I went down Sheridan the other day. I was telling somebody that there's about 30 kids, and I called them over and I made them clean up the trash they left around, and we sat down and we talked, and the one girl said, I love you, I'm going to call you Grandma. I said, why'd you go right to Grandma? You didn't go Auntie, you didn't go to Mom, you went right to Grandma. She said, because you were Skechers. I said, all right. so anyway, but so I want to make sure that the kids have someplace safe, and in Sheridan, I don't want that to be a forgotten area, or Elliott, because there are places willing to open their doors, and if I have to, I'll allocate the funding to make sure that they get their doors open. I'm just not going to allow them to go through a summer with nothing again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thank you both. Thank you both for your work.
Thank you, Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Jones. And I just want to start by saying it was really good to be at Brashear with you and speaking to the kids that we spoke to, not the first round, but the second round. Both were delightful. I mean, but the second round was, I don't want to miscategorize these kids. High risk, at risk. I know they thought they were the cool kids, and
cool
they were the
kids.
tough
Just call them
guys.
cool kids,
Yeah, right.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it was really good to see your interaction with that. And I do believe, as a city, if we're going to reduce gun violence, if we're going to reduce crime, we need to be in these high schools. We really do. Really pleased to see the cooperation between the school district and the city of Pittsburgh. I've not seen that before.
And Stella, yeah, we have a great relationship.
You want to elaborate on that, or is it?
So,
and Dr. Sacca was great. I would say.
she's one
and
of
it was great to see her interact.
We've been working
with these
lock and
kids.
step for a while. The good thing is, prior to this engagement, I worked in the schools.
Right.
I did mentoring in the schools. I worked with helping to train some of the teachers. So it was natural progression for me to reach out to Dr. Sacca or Dr. Walters.
So you took the initiative on that. You reached out to them and said, we need to get into the schools.
Well, we've been talking about, yes. Yeah. That was one of the things that we had talked about for a while. And
Can I interrupt real quick? I do want to also give the mayor credit for that, because he also did, and that's why I think why he hired somebody like you with a connection.
Well, of course, yes, yeah, right.
I just want to make sure.
No doubt.
Salute to the mayor, yes.
Salute to the mayor.
But yeah, those. I mean, this is all relational. The more that we talk, the more that we walk and talk and deal with problems head on, the better everything will be, and we will continue to do that.
Right. And these students were that probably didn't want to be there. I would say it's safe to say, but we asked them a question, and the one student, he just kind of mumbled, nobody could hear him, and I really like the basic things, like Mr. Jones stood up and said, excuse me, son. He said, you want to speak up so I can hear you back here? And they really need to know that. and just to introduce themselves when they stand up and say something, they need to be heard. So I really enjoyed, sitting in on that. I thought it was very fruitful. I love you being in our schools, working in with these students. I think is fantastic. Just tell me, when you say we stipend students, we pay them?
Yes.
No, cash?
Not
Check?
cash.
Check?
Check.
Right.
Kind of,
Is that
yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Or maybe a card.
Like a little card, because
Got
if
it.
it's under a certain amount, then you don't have to report it and so on and so
Got
forth.
it.
Yes.
Got it. Surely we don't spend the lion's share of the grant money on that.
No, it is
Where
not.
is the lion's share of the money spent? We're talking about $2.5 million. Is it distributing it to different groups that are working within the district or the school
Yeah,
district?
Staff,
Yeah.
primarily. I mean, having the right staff, the right coordinators in each school, the right leads in each school. The ambassadors, as much as we're not spending a lion's share, they're very important, Councilman. I mean, because
I
that
agree.
peer-to-peer relationship is paramount. The peer relations can reach where maybe our outreach workers and the principals can't, because they're peers, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I almost categorize it, just in what little I did see, as a mentorship, as much as, I don't even want to label it as crime reduction or stop the violence. It's really just interacting with these kids and, giving them supervision. And if we can get the leaders or the students that are willing to step up and pay them a little bit of money, that's great. Do you have is it hard to recruit those students to be the ambassadors, or is it a waiting list?
They're recruited sort of as they go. So when the staff and the community leaders and the principal and whoever are talking to people, meeting with them, taking them on Fridays for pizza, do something else. As a young person starts to say, right, I'm going to be the person who walks away, as they demonstrate their ability to be an ambassador, then they get recruited to be an ambassador. So we want to see that a person is willing to do the work and talk to their peers about doing the work. So in Perry, we have the full slate of ambassadors.
Okay.
And there are multiple leaders in the school,
Sure.
so it's incumbent to make sure that we eye mark the right one. Right. That are also willing to shift if their behavior is a little inappropriate as well.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
What do we pay the ambassadors?
No. Yeah.
I don't know what the hourly is. We could probably figure it out. But we think when we've got the program fully up and running, we'll have 80.
Yes, 80. Yes.
We can find out for you.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, no, I really just wanted to compliment you, Mr. Jones. When we were at that meeting, I just felt like, you were fully engaged. We all were. And recognizing the issues that these children might have. And again, I think of it more as a mentorship and trying to get kids on the right path. So that's it. That's it for me, Mr. Chair. Of course, I'll be supportive.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Second round, Councilwoman Warwick.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to quickly ask, just to confirm, how many folks will we have in the school? I guess specifically for Alderdice.
Repeat that, please.
Just how many people we're planning to hire in the schools, and then also will this be up and running by, I guess, August 28th? Is that the first day of school?
So hopefully, Councilwoman, when we can get the money, because we have to pay people, we like to employ some people during the summer. The coordinator, the co-coordinator, and 10 ambassadors, roughly per school. As soon as we get the money, we can start paying them. A lot of our ambassadors, we get them connected with Learn and Earn, which will be helpful.
Okay.
But we need to get the people in the schools to work, in conjunction with the principals and the counselors to kind of make sure everything is coordinated. So when late August comes, the students, we're ready to rock and roll.
And for the adult positions, are those full-time positions or just a few hours a day?
No, there's a 40-hour week position.
Oh, those
Yes,
are full-time
yes,
positions.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are the requirements? Or I should ask, are there any special requirements?
By and large, the main one, as we see it, is community involvement. That you're credible in the community. That you also have some workings with youth and understand how to work with youth. Training specialties are also welcome as well.
Okay, if there's any, when those jobs get posted, I'm happy to share.
Thank you so very much. We need that. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, it's a pretty aggressive timeline we have for the summer to be in the position that we all want to be in for the school year. So, so far, we're on, I think we're a week behind, but we're more or less on track. So we just going to keep moving it.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck
Thank
with
you.
it. Thank you.
That takes us to Human Resources Committee, chaired by Councilman Burgess. One new paper, Bill 1624.
Bill 1624, resolution providing for an agreement with POGO to provide annual bicycle share memberships to all City of Pittsburgh employees and providing for the payment of the cost thereof not to exceed $35,000.
Motion to approve.
Second discussion?
Discussion, Councilman Wilson?
Yeah. First, I'd like to offer up an amendment, and then I have some invited guests that that are in the audience that'd like to come up to speak to the bill. But first off, everyone should see the yellow sheet that was sent out. This is the amendment that I will offer up here in a second. I just want to go through and explain it first. These are all technical in nature. For instance, we're going to correct the legal name of the entity that manages the POGO system in 2 places. We're going to add technical language about the appropriation of funds. And then lastly, we'll allow the benefit to be administered on an opt-in basis. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of amendment by substitution, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The bill has been amended. Council Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, to the bill that we just amended, where it seeks to authorize the mayor to offer our employees, all employees of the City of Pittsburgh, a membership with the bike share program POGO. I'm really excited about this. In fact, when I had a meeting recently with POGO, it was talking about expanding the whole system in terms of what new stations will be coming to my district. And since the district has expanded, it goes to the Strip downtown and on the north side. I was happy to see that that's continuing to expand in all those places, and really looking forward to that expansion. And then throughout the conversation, I continued to learn more about these partnerships that they have and what we already had in current place in the city. And we'll get there. But I just want to say some initial comments. And if you all could come up, and I think I got ahead of myself. I was going down the road talking about it, and then I was like, you know what, I should talk about it with you up here. So if you could all state your name and who you're with for the record.
Recording in progress.
Maybe someone joined.
Kim Lucas, Director for the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure.
I'm Eric Boer, the Advocacy Director of Bike Pittsburgh. Good morning, I'm David White. I'm the Executive Director of Bike Share Pittsburgh that operates the POGO system.
All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm sorry, you'll have to sit through a little more of my comments, but I think it makes sense for you all to be up here when I'm making some of these comments. So I'm excited to learn more about what we already had in place at the city. But that said, I think that this program will offer, a few things. One is more transit options for our employees. And I think in the time when, all employees, even part-time employees. So I think in the time when let's just think of lifeguards. The time where we're looking for more lifeguards and individuals that may not have, that would have a transit barrier and they might not have a car. Not sure, what other issues, they face, but at least there could be an option for them to walk down the street, get on a bike, show up at the pool. So maybe that's a barrier. And then for other employees, it's even, I see it more than even just transit. I see it more than that. I see it as a health and wellness aspect to it. We have the City Fit program. I think it's a great opportunity to offer this and see, offer this pilot to the employees and see how this goes and get the data from it and understand really what the long-term effects are, even with our insurance rates, health insurance rates or other benefits that, we offer employees and we ultimately pay for. So there's a lot of different opportunities that I see here. And with that, Director Lucas, I did have a question about, how the program initially started in the city and whether it was through your leadership or someone else, and just, just wanted curious on, could you talk about that program? How's that program going? What do your employees think about it? And, as the director, what do you think about the expansion to all employees?
Sure. So the benefit for having a bike share membership for DOMI employees predates me. It was started by the founding director, Director Karina Ricks. It's a great benefit. We have over 30 people in our department who have signed up for it. They've taken over 500 trips. I'm sure some of those trips have been for work purposes. So those are times that people aren't using a motor pool car. They're not taking up parking spaces or emitting, air pollution. And so we think it's really an awesome benefit. There's not a lot of times that I can tell people that your city employment gets you this extra benefit. We don't get into pools for free. We don't get priority for the daycare at city parks or anything. So I've heard a lot of positive feedback about, getting a free bike share membership when you're a member or when you're an employee for DOMI. And I think it's also really important for us to practice what we preach. We're trying to make our streets safer for all users. We're trying to encourage people getting around without cars for all the environmental, health, honestly, infrastructure benefits that come from people not driving on our streets all the time. And this is one way that we can demonstrate that.
Oh, great. Eric, on this, on behalf of Bike Pittsburgh, who's our, bike and pedestrian advocate in the city, the organization that does all that, what do you think about the impact of Pittsburgh entering into this partnership with Pogo to offer free bike share memberships?
Yeah, obviously we're in support. Just yesterday, some DOMI staff showed up to our office on Pogos. But I think I like to think in a bigger picture. The city of Pittsburgh is often a leader in a lot of policy initiatives. For instance, a lot of people at this table passed the Complete Streets policy. We now have 8 Complete Streets policies in Allegheny County. So I really see the city as being a leader for this and acting as a model for other, say, large employers, who also might take up this kind of initiative to help achieve their health and wellness, and as well as like climate goals, and just make it easier for people to get around without an automobile.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you spoke to that because, since there was some news about this, we put this bill on the table. We already have a couple corporations that have reached out to understand more about this program, and they're looking forward to how they can offer it to their employees as well. And it's in the city of Pittsburgh, so really excited about that. And David, can you tell us about the Pogo partnership today, and how big is the network in terms of the stations, and then how many bicycles and what kinds, where are the stations coming from? Basically like a rundown, but also what percentage of city employees do you see using the program?
Yeah, that's a lot, but I'm happy to dig in. I'll just kind of start from the highest elevation. Just as a reminder, here in the city, Bike Share is owned and operated by a nonprofit. That's our organization. It's called Bike Share Pittsburgh. It's very similarly named to the advocacy organization Bike Pittsburgh. And we previously operated the Healthy Ride system. We did that for 7 years. And last year, we retired that equipment. And we introduced a brand new system here in Pittsburgh. It's called Pogo. And Pogo is kind of a national leader on two fronts. One is that we introduced electric assist bikes into the fleet. We've got 65% of our fleet have a small motor on the bicycle. It's powered by a battery. There's no throttle. There's no buttons at all, actually. The motor kicks in based on the amount of effort that the rider's putting out. So it's really easy to use. It's designed, the concept of this electric assist bike is designed for older persons to use to reduce the sort of manual operations that some other more complex electric bikes use. So it's really, it's designed for everyone. We feel really good about that. We launched it last year. That's the kind of first big thing that's exciting about what we're doing. And then the second thing is we created a 3-way agreement between our organization, the City of Pittsburgh, and Duquesne Light to charge those bikes at the stations. We're one of the few cities that's doing that, but I know dozens of cities in the U.S. are trying to figure out what we've already done here in Pittsburgh. Connecting our stations to power is not easy, because if any of you know, trying to get power to things in the public rights of way sometimes requires, through the county, an address point. So we were able to avoid all of that, and we piggybacked onto the city's streetlight infrastructure. We made things happen really like in a really impressive way. And so thanks to all of you who are a part of that, we now can charge those bikes in the public. That's a huge jump forward in sustainability and longevity of any kind of public service. Is that unlike the scooters, we don't need to go out and visit every single one of those bikes to charge it. We don't have to go find it. We don't have to bring a new battery or take it back to a warehouse to charge it. They're charging pretty naturally at the stations. So that's kind of the basis of where we're at. We have some of the best equipment in the world now with Pogo, a world-class system that's really fun to use. And then finally, I'll just say that, or not finally, but I'll just say that we're really also happy. PRT has recently announced that the majority of their mobile ticketing, so people who get on a bus using their app, using their phone, the majority of that is happening through an app called Transit. I don't know if any of you use it, but it's a ticketing app and a route finding app. So the majority of the purchases for PRT's mobile experience are happening through the Transit app, and we have an integration with that same app that allows customers to rent a bike from the very same experience. So from one single mobile application, one app on your phone, you're able to get on a bus or get on one of our bikes with one payment process. It's really easy. It's one click, and you hold your phone over one of our bikes, and the bike releases to you. So we've done some really cool things here in Pittsburgh that other cities are jealous of, honestly. But we're not quite at the scale that we need to make the system like truly reliable. And so that to kind of transitions into your question, which is where are we at? We currently have 38 stations throughout the city. This month in June, we're installing another 22 stations. That'll take us up to 60 stations and 600 bikes. Again, 65% of those are electric assist bikes, 35% pedal bikes. Both the pedal bikes and the electric assist bikes can be rented and returned from every one of those different 60 locations. So at every location, you should, as a customer or a rider, you should feel really confident that you'll be able to get a pedal bike or a fully charged e-bike.
We should mention, I'll let you continue, but we should mention, like in Pittsburgh, those pedal assist bikes are critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really has been a game changer. I'm sure all of you are more familiar with our 90 neighborhoods than I am, but almost everywhere you go in our city, you're going to have to go up a hill, and it's an absolute game changer to be able to do that with a little bit of assistance from a motor.
And then employees, in terms of how many employees you expect would.
Yeah, so we
talk about the calculation that we did here.
The calculation to arrive at kind of this partnership that we're talking about today. We looked at kind of the total number of city employees, about 3,000, and then our organization sort of looked at like what's the like bare minimum cost that we could partner with the city to make sure that we weren't going to lose money on that. And then we did go down a little bit from there. So we kind of anticipate in many partnerships that we'll see between 10 to 20% of the total employees. We do have these partnerships with other companies. We'll see about 10 to 20% of employees sign up and use the product. That number is right about 25%, I think, for Domi as an example. And so we said we sort of anticipate that number would be a little higher with city employees because so many employees live in the city. But we said, why don't we take 10%? And so if we're anticipating, kind of in that 10 to 25% range, but the pricing of the arrangement that we have here is based on a projection of 10% of employees signing up.
Great. I know I've already been talking with some employees, or they just bring it up.
Yeah,
We're in discussion.
I think it's going to be a lot more than that, and that'll be a really.
I can't wait. I can't believe it's going to be an option. Can't wait to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to open up to members, but I just want to, finally mention that, the administration was key in getting this bill to the table, and also our budget office as well. So I thank our budget office, OMB, for all their work to, figure out where's the best place to pull money for this program. So appreciate your time.
Yeah,
and, thanks for coming. I'll be here during other questions, but I really appreciate, everything that, you're doing to expand. Oh, we should talk about that goal. The one I love. So
yeah.
Maybe you remember. I can say it, but how about you say it?
I think
what's the goal for everyone in the city of Pittsburgh to be?
Yeah, to have Pogo access in their neighborhood for
quarter mile.
We'd love to see a quarter mile. Yeah, we'd love to see everyone in the entire city be within a quarter mile of a station. Picture, our bus network right now. If you want to get on the bus, you need a bus stop, right? You need the bus to stop either where you're coming from or where you're going, and really both, but at least one of those. Same thing applies to our network. If you want to use Pogo, you do have to take it from one of our stations and return it to a station. And so we need those stations to be in every neighborhood, and we have a vision for that. That number is right around 320 total stations that we would need. That'd be 3 or 4 stations in every single neighborhood of the city, and then a little bit more densely located in places like downtown and Oakland. We want to get there. We have a path to that. We just discussed it with Domi recently, and many of you, I know council doesn't often get involved with the city's federal or state grant applications, but we are looking at a big one here this month. The SPC just issued their guidance for combined application for 4 different federal programs. And so I'm really excited to champion a request from the federal government to help us get to that number. And over the next month, we'll hopefully, we also have really strong support from our foundation community on all of the previous Pogo expansions and previous bike share expansions. We've seen millions of dollars in local matches that have been, as a nonprofit, we're able to receive those from the large foundations here in the city, and so we'd be expecting that again for this next round. But yeah, the vision is to make sure that everyone in the city can get access to this. No matter where you live, I feel like it should be easy to choose to take a quick bike trip.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Parkhill?
Thank you for being here, Eric, David, Director. I guess my first question, or first I want to make a comment. We had, Councilwoman Warwick had the scooters, e-scooters, post-agenda some time ago. And I just want to make sure I'm correct. Your riders, they are being charged until they put that back into the station, into the hub, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, if the scooters could do that, I would feel differently about it, because people have a determination to return that, because for every second it's off of that, they're being charged. What is the charge for a mile?
We charge by the half hour.
Half hour.
So for 30 minutes, it's $4 for a pedal bike and $5.50 for the electric assist bike. That pricing model is what most of our visitors to our city use. We also offer a annual membership that allows people an unlimited number of 30-minute trips that first half hour. That's $120 an hour. $120 a year.
Fly for that.
Yeah. So that annual membership is actually what we're proposing for all city employees.
Got it.
Yeah. So you're exactly correct. Our users do have to take the bike from a station and return it to a station.
Right.
They're pretty good about doing that.
Sure. And when you said the ones that are charged, the cooperation you have with Duquesne Light, that's really interesting to me. That's a really great system.
Yeah.
Do they have to plug it in, or is it just naturally charged when they
It
put it on the
naturally
hub?
charges
Is that right?
at the
Is that right?
at the station. Yeah.
So there's nothing to plug in or no
Nope.
responsibilities.
No buttons.
Just put it
yeah.
back.
Just return the
Good,
bike
good.
and it charges.
Good. I don't think you have a station in my district.
I want one.
What's that?
I want one there.
Do you?
Yeah.
My entire district. You know, we don't have a bike lane in my district.
That feels
Bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, that feels like an
It's not that we're anti-bike. We have a lot of
Yeah.
bike enthusiasts that really would,
Yeah.
but it's a matter of, here's the issue with my district, riding that bike to town. If we can commute, find a way.
Yeah.
We looked into it many ways. It's just no way, unless you permit it through the tunnels, and that's not going to happen. But it doesn't mean we can't put the stations in our parks and let people, whether we have bike lanes or not. I mean, it doesn't. You're not restricted to put those along bike lanes, right?
No.
You can put them wherever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would suggest in the parks. I mean, let people take them from the park and ride wherever they want to ride. And if we don't have bike lanes, you're still riding at your own risk, whether it's a bike lane or not. So.
Yeah.
So what has been holding us up?
I mean, right now we have 38 stations. It's hard to make it work for people. We know that there's a lot, the majority of Pittsburgh neighborhoods do not have a bike share station right now. The vast majority. That's kind of the point that Council Member Wilson was just bringing up, is that there is a vision to make this useful and convenient for everyone. It's gonna take some money to get there. I would love, for all of the South Hills to have access to bikes. I've ridden my bike up there.
Do it.
It's a wonderful part of the city. People deserve that option.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, it's not the concept that Mr. Wilson's, for the free ridership for the city of Pittsburgh. It's not I feel you're very well run. I see them everywhere. In my travels, they all seem to be well kept, clean. I don't know who cleans them. Did somebody clean them?
We clean them. Yeah.
Oh, you clean them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that, but I'm looking at a position where I have to tell my district we have outdated, inadequate vehicles to ride for our fire or police or EMTs, you name it, across the board. And we don't have a station in our district, a POGO station in our district as it is.
Yeah.
So it seems like a little bit of money, and it's really, I appreciate you all working with Councilman Wilson and getting that to a point where peanuts as far as government spending goes. But to me, it's a cruiser, right, at this point. And that's what I'm struggling with. So it's not the concept. It's a great idea. If it promotes people to ride bikes back and forth to work, I'm all for it. I would like to see you come to my neighborhood. I would like somebody to call me and say, well, how can we get in there? I don't know what's been holding us back, but I might feel differently about it if, I know that my district had access to it. So, as for city workers that live in my district, we're miles away from a station. We have to come to town.
I do. Yeah, I completely understand that. I would say that for all of the city employees who live in your district, when they come to work, in the Strip District or at any of the DPW divisions throughout the city, downtown, our stations will be close. They'll be able to travel from downtown to the Strip real easily on a bike. They'll be able to travel from downtown into the north side real easily on a bike.
But not to home.
Not home. Yeah, that trip won't be possible. But there will be many other types of trips that
We
would
could
be
drive
possible.
to town and then hop on a bike.
Take the T. Yeah. Yeah, so for,
if
you know,
I could,
please.
David.
Yeah.
Get control, Chair, Mr. Chair, get control.
So you're absolutely right. And this bike share is typically known as a first mile, last mile solution because it gets people to those other opportunities in your district. It may be that it gets people to that T station. And not necessarily all the way downtown because of all the challenges that you mentioned. I will say that this is a model, having employees have this as a benefit, that you see all the way up to USDOT. Literally, the U.S. Department of Transportation for years has offered their employees capital bike share memberships. And so it's something that, you know, for I think $10 a year for an employee, I think could go a long way for recruiting also to the city and to say, hey, this is a benefit. And honestly, this isn't this bill. I'd love to see this expanded to PRT because right now it costs more for a monthly bus pass than it does to park your car if you can get one of those limited parking spaces. And the more ways that we can give people affordable ways to get to work, that really helps us attract people and keep them here too.
Right. No, I will say I'm for it. I love the idea. I'm for promoting it for all the same reasons you are. You know, lower emissions, giving people more accessibility. It's just tough for me to support because my district has no access to it. And I have to tell them on a monthly basis how dire straits our vehicle fleet is in. It's a small number. I'll tell you what, I will do this. I'll abstain today on it. But I'm waiting to hear from the administration as to how we're going to be creative and find funding for vehicles that we so desperately need, motor vehicles. And, you know, I'll be happy to support this next week if we have some sort of plan with the administration as to how we're going to find funding for the vehicles we need for our public safety. So, but thank you for being here. I love what you do.
Appreciate
you know,
I
I see it everywhere. It seems to be well run, well kept. I imagine your finances are in good shape.
Clean as a whistle.
Good deal. Thanks, David. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Warwick?
Yeah, so I just want to say I'm very supportive of this. You guys do a great job with the bike share program. They're super accessible. You can ride them from basically 14 to 104, you know, if you're able to ride a bike. I love that we're getting 2 new stations in Hazelwood, which is huge. I'd love to see these programs are wildly. They do great. Paris, New York, all over Germany. I mean, these bike shares. It's popular and it works and it's consistent and sustainable and just, you know, has staying power, as we've seen, right? You've been around for a long time. So I'm glad to see, and I would like to see our city focus on this, right? This to me, in terms of micromobility, is an excellent solution. And on top of that, you are doing a very good job of making sure that folks in lower income neighborhoods, et cetera, are getting these, you know, signing up and using bikes. So that's great. You can ride them up hills, all these things, connections to transit. I know I'm excited about this myself. Just yesterday, I biked to work and then came out in the pouring rain. And so this will be, right now I can just take one of these to work and then take the bus home if it's pouring rain, right?
Yeah.
But I had to leave my bike overnight and whatever. And anyway, so I'll see the benefit right away, so that's nice. And then, yes, I also wanted to make a plug, just since I have the mic, for bus passes as well. PRT right now is running a pilot for bulk rate passes. I don't think that pilot is necessarily going to be ready in time for budget season, but nonetheless, I feel like this disparity of essentially, if I drive, I get $30 a month off my parking. If I take the bus, I don't get that, right? So at the very least, the city should be compensating folks who are taking transit, at the very least. And so I see the director behind me, but that's something that I hope to see in the budget coming into next year, with an eye then later to the bulk rate that is hopefully coming down the pipe. Anyway. Very exciting.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'm also supportive and really excited to see this rolling out. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of the details. As I was in the back room, some of our own city clerk staff were really excited and asking questions about how it would work. And I was like, no, it's an annual membership. I think you said, David, that the annual membership gives you the first half hour free. So what happens if you don't park it in 30 minutes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for this benefit for all city employees, every trip that's under 30 minutes is free. For people who maybe need a longer ride, they could park the bike and grab another bike and continue their trip and also still be free.
Oh.
So that's a pretty easy one. They could even park a bike and then take back the very same bike. So it's really just kind of the 30 minutes limit is designed to encourage people to take short trips so that the bikes are available for
Not keep it at
more
your house
and
every
not,
night.
and not keep it at your house. Exactly.
Got it.
And so the pricing is purposefully encouraging people to get out in our city and to take a short trip. For anyone who does go over the 30 minutes, any city employee who goes over the 30 minutes, as a part of the registration process, they will connect a payment method with us, and they'll be charged our pay-as-you-go rate, our standard rate for anyone that takes our bikes. And that, like I said, that's $4 per half hour for every additional 30 minutes that they have it.
And you can do what's called trip chaining, where you
Yeah.
dock the bike at minute 29 and then take it right back out. If you need to go somewhere farther, that's what I've seen in a lot of cities that people will do to kind of skirt around that extra fee.
Does the transit app help you map your route from destination so that you can do that
Yep.
swapping that you just said?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like, so I'm going to go from here to my house, hypothetically,
Mhm.
in Highland Park. And the transit app, if let's say I'm very slow on the bicycle, which as I probably would be, it's going to tell me
You might
like,
be surprised.
where I can stop and then swap bikes or just recharge.
It will tell you, yeah, every station along your route.
And then, which leads into my next question about the kind of station expansion plan. I think I heard you say you have 30 stations. And I asked my staff where we have requests for stations, basically everywhere.
Yeah.
In my district. And so if I were going to my house, and I have people who've come to my house, teenagers who can use the electric bikes and can use Pogo, and teenagers can't use the scooters, right? If you're 16.
Yep.
They can use like the electric bikes. So they get to my house, but then I would have to go about a mile back to East Liberty to actually station the bike and then walk back to my house for a mile. Actually, there's frequent bus service, but still. So that kind of leads me into my next question, which I know that you have equity goals and you have kind of system balances you're trying to get to, but I basically have requests from every single neighborhood, maybe except for Bloomfield, which maybe already is well served, that Lawrenceville, Stanton Heights, Morningside, Highland Park, Polish Hill, like the Heron Avenue Station, which is a major bus expressway PRT busway station. So I think some of them are maybe coming. So could you just kind of recap kind of where you are with the number of stations and how many you're adding in 2023?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. That's a great question. So right now, today, we have 38 stations. They are in the north side, downtown, south side, Oakland, Shadyside, Lawrenceville, the Strip District, and the Hill District. And we also have stations in Larmer and Homewood. In this month, we are hoping on June 23rd, we will start installing the first of 22 more stations. So we have that equipment. We have most of that equipment here in Pittsburgh now. We have all of the bikes here now. We're waiting for a couple more equipment deliveries. Between now and mid or the end of July, we will have 60 total locations. That's the 38 that we have now plus the 22 that we're installing over the next month. Those 22 stations are going in, we have 3 more stations going in the north side. We have 1 station going downtown, 2 stations in the south side, 3 stations in Oakland and South Oakland combined. We have 2 stations in Hazelwood. We'll be in Hazelwood for the first time ever. We have another 2 stations in Larmer and 3 stations in Homewood.
That's fantastic. So
think so.
I don't know kind of where our employees overlap with your map. Clearly not in District 4, right? If you're employees, you're not be able to take those bikes home, as we've mentioned. But I think this is a great place to start. I'm fully supportive. I think it's a great price. We've been saying for years how we would love to be able to provide bus passes for our city employees. Sure, it would be great to have a bulk rate with the Port Authority, but we'd even kind of talked amongst ourselves as council members. We have about 50 people on our side of the hall, and maybe we should have just bought full price, right? Because our staff don't have convenient parking. We're a little spoiled as council members. We get to park near the building, but we have staff that do take the bus, and we're not helping them. As Councilwoman Warwick pointed out, we're not helping them cover that cost. So that's about all the questions. I appreciate the station expansion. Maybe, I don't know if you've sent us or it's publicly available, your kind of big goal of 322 stations. Looks like by the end of the year, you'll be at 20%, almost 20% of that. So that's significant progress. And I just want to also emphasize that I also have seen kind of just all kinds of people in all shapes and sizes and all, age ranges on the bike share bikes. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion, Madam President?
Yeah. Did you mention any stations in the West End? I didn't hear.
I did not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Again, I would love to be in the West End. If we can make those connections to make it easy to ride bikes there.
You know how you can make those connections? The city can finish the trolley trail that I started 3 or 4 years before I was ever elected. And
Like
Penn State Extension helped me. Dina DeSanchez helped me get that all started, came up with the design.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for that trolley trail to be completed. And we own the property. So you could you could finish that. You could take the bike trail up and over West Carson and help it end at the West End Bridge, which is getting renovated in 25. And we're doing a lot of work there. And you can help connect those projects. Because I think you start doing some of that, then the West End would be more supportive of some of the things that you're doing. And it would be okay for me to vote for some of this stuff. What happens now is people want to know, we're voting for stuff all over the city, but the West End, and let me just say, Southwest Pittsburgh is now probably paying the bulk of taxes for the city of Pittsburgh. We have more middle-income families that are paying taxes in the city. And I'd like to get a number on that, Pete, if you can get me some of that. And so we want to see something for the tax money that they're paying to. And that means we're happy to help all the city of Pittsburgh. When Pittsburgh thrives, we all thrive. But we are part of Pittsburgh. And unless we want to look at something else, some other alternatives, right now we're part of Pittsburgh. So at this moment, Annex, that's right. We do border Mount Lebanon. Yeah. But I do want to say we can finish the trolley trail, and I'm supportive of the idea of helping employees, but we also pay employees. So I think it would be great to see it at a level, like if they're under a certain pay scale or something like that we're helping with bus passes and other things. But honestly, I think the city should be doing all the things with the bus passes and anything to incentivize working in the city, because we are not paying all of our employees the best, that they could be paid elsewhere. And to me, it shows a lot of gratitude and a lot of that we really value their work in the city. So I think that's a great idea to do all that stuff, including childcare, which is something the Women's Caucus has been fighting for years. I think we should set the example by doing it here in the city of Pittsburgh. And Councilman Lavelle and I were just discussing it, doing a childcare center here within this building, and with some really quality care, and really making it a great place for people to work, because childcare is so expensive right now and so difficult to find, and quality care is really challenging. So I think that we should also be looking at those things. But first, I think we need to make sure that we take care of the things we're supposed to take care of, including the cruisers and the police vehicles and all that stuff. So Councilman Colco, I'm happy to work with you over the next week to take money from any project you want to take it from, to put money towards the vehicles, and then we'll let the administration decide how they want to pursue.
Let's talk today.
So, yeah, I'm just saying enough is enough. I mean, this is our responsibility. This is what we're supposed to be doing here at this table. We're supposed to be providing safe and clean environments for the city of Pittsburgh and for our residents that pay taxes. So, with that said, I'm willing to work with you. We've waited for multiple administrations. I've been here since Luke Ravenstall, and so it's been a long time. And every year this is an issue. And so I think that let's take care of the vehicles. But I'm going to be supportive of this today, with the idea that we're going to work on finishing some of the projects in my district as well. And I'd love to see us get some. I got to tell you, one of my biggest advocates when you talk about people of all ages and all backgrounds riding bikes, two of the people that spoke the most for the bike trail going over West Carson was one was a man in his 80s, the other was in his 70s, and they ride their bike every single day on that road, and it's taking their lives in their hands. And the one does it every Friday. He comes down to the Oyster House in downtown, and he talks about how this is like a memory for him. So I'd love to see them and the kids at Langley spoke with them for bike lanes. So I'd like to see people of all ages have a safe path around the city of Pittsburgh from the West End. Thank you.
David, just out of curiosity, when they return those bikes to the charging station, how does it charge? Does it go in through the tires? I mean, it can't go through rubber, right? I mean, how is it that it automatically charges?
There's a metal to metal connection.
Okay. Like magnetized or?
It's not magnetized. It's a charger. The front of our bicycles have a electrical charging receptacle, I guess you would call it. And there is electricity that goes to every single docking point.
Right. And how many in your typical station of the charging units are there?
We currently have, of our 38 stations that we have now, 20 of the locations can charge bicycles. And every docking point at those 20 stations can charge bikes.
Oh, okay. So every spot can charge.
Every spot. Yep,
Got
exactly.
it.
Every spot of those 20 stations.
Got it. What does a station cost you to put? Say, if we wanted to put one at Moore Park.
Station costs. A station is not very helpful without the bikes along with it. So the total
I'm
cost,
talking. Okay, you look at it two separate. Okay.
I'm just giving you,
Yep.
making sure that we're clear on that.
Got
So
it.
the station combined with the bikes to function at the station is about $80,000.
$80,000, not that bad.
That's installed, shipped, everything in.
You
the
have
ground.
your new 22 locations already set.
We do. Yep.
Okay. When do you plan to expand again?
Right now, yeah. I mean,
Right
that's
now.
what I
Okay,
mentioned.
good,
This
good.
kind of vision.
Well, you call me, and
Yeah.
I will definitely sit with you. We'll talk about where we could put them.
I would love to do that. Yeah.
I think it's long overdue. I
Yeah.
think we would love to have them. We feel forgotten, and
Take them to the West End, okay?
Yeah, I'm happy-
We'll talk
happy to do
about my district and District
Yeah.
2, and
Yep.
let's spread around. Even though we can't ride them to town, it's
Yeah.
okay. We could ride them back and forth to Grandma's house, or
Yeah.
whatever. Ride them. Really, when we talk about the scooters, ideally we'd like to have them a station near transit. So, some areas of my district, you can walk 4 or 5 miles before you get to transit. So we do have we have the T Red Line coming right through. We have good bus service. PRT does a good job. But what I find, the only thing people will use the scooters for, other than joyriding in my district, is going to transportation. So, if we could strategically talk about where our main transport
Yeah.
stations are and look around that area and get 2 in my district and 2 in Council District 2 if she wants them.
I'd love to. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
look
start
forward
doing
to
my
it.
own stuff. I make my own trails. I do my own bike stuff. I do my own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in our vision. We have a map that shows every one of the Pittsburgh neighborhoods.
Just so you know, was it you, David, took a walk with me through Seldom Seen?
That was me.
That was you,
Yeah,
Eric.
me and
Okay,
Scott, yeah.
right. Just so you know, I exasperated the efforts to try to have the PRT open up the Wabash Tunnel.
Yeah.
Which is in District 2, which
Oh,
I
you
didn't
better
draw
watch.
her attention, but, first of all, forget it. The liability, forget it. It's not going to happen. So we really do not have a way to travel through town.
Yeah.
If you think of a way, that would be the magic
the liability
Yeah,
and the
we're-
fact that the Mount Washington residents
That'd
wanted
be
to kill him
great
for asking.
I don't know how you do. We could build a bridge, maybe. I don't know. So, but going up over Warrington Avenue down through the south side to get to town, it's like just not feasible. And rather than a half-hour ride, you're looking at an hour ride. So, I don't have the answers to that, but at least to have them within the district to get back and forth to transportation, to use to travel, to visit people, how use it for pleasure. It doesn't matter to me. I like the idea that I don't see your bikes laying on the streets and sidewalks like the scooters. That's the most important thing. So we welcome you. David, I look forward to that conversation.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I do have one question. Your pricing is 10 times more affordable than the scooters are. And one of the scooter claims when they came was that it would be able to assist with sort of the last mile argument, especially for low-income residents. But it's unaffordable for low-income residents. Is there any tiered system to the biking system for low-income residents?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that question, Councilman Lavelle. We have a mobility justice membership. It's on our website. It's in our app. It's very easy for people to sign up. Anyone, any Allegheny County resident who qualifies for SNAP, for Medicaid, or for LIHEAP, the heating, statewide heating discounted program, any of those three programs, any Allegheny County resident can select a mobility justice membership through our program and get the annual membership, the same product that we're going to be offering to the City of Pittsburgh employees for $10. $10 for the whole year. So it's an annual product, unlimited number of bike trips for $10 for the year. So it's hard to imagine a better deal than that if you want to take a bike trip in our city.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Per some of our prior conversations, that's a great argument to make when we're looking to expand in places like the Hill District or other neighborhoods to sort of have that conversation of here's a way that this could be of assistance to you, because often, especially in lower income black neighborhoods, it's viewed as a gentrification tool, which is why there's a fear of it coming. Rather, here's an actual tool that could be beneficial for those within the community. So I'll be sure to share that information. I was not aware, but thank you.
We have a small staff. We are a nonprofit, but we do have people on my team whose job it is to go to the food bank, to go to church services, to go to farmers markets, to let people know of this product, to sign people up. At other events, at all different types of events, we try to be out there to let people know that this does exist. I think you're not alone in not understanding that we do offer this product, and we need to do a better job of making sure people are more aware of it.
Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. Affirmative recommendation. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilman Wilson.
That takes us to Recreation, Youth, and Senior Services Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Strasburger. Our first new paper is Bill 1619.
Bill 1619, resolution providing for the designation of certain areas of public property within Shenley Park under city ownership to be formalized as a city park.
Motion to approve with discussion.
Second.
I'd like to defer to the bill sponsor.
Yeah, sure. So this bill came out of the long community fight against the Mont Oakland Connector, which was a proposal to run shuttles through this section of Shenley Park. And during that time, over those 6 years, one thing we kept hearing over and over again was, well, it's not really a park. It used to be a road. It's not really. So this, and while it is part of Shenley Park, right, it even has a sign that says, this is Lower Shenley on the other side of the railroad tracks. It says Shenley Park. It was never formally sort of, that part, so Shenley Park as a parcel is protected as a park, but this part of it never was. So this is just sort of formally recognizing that this is a public park with all the benefits that come with that, right? With all the protections that come with that under the Dedicated and Donated Property Act. And then there's actually a second bill that kind of goes with this. I don't know.
1620?
Yeah.
Want to read it with it?
If you want to read that with it, yeah.
Bill 1620, ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title I, Administration, Article 7, by creating Chapter 172, Citizen Petition for Public Parks.
So with this, if, going forward, if members of the public would like a hearing regarding something going on with one of the parks, it would require the city, I guess specifically the clerk, but the city to inform them of the existence of the Get Dedicated and Donated Property Act, so that they actually know that that there is like public trust for that land. That is something, just again, in that history, that while we spoke with multiple lawyers over the time, we didn't know that, right? Nobody sort of brought that to our attention. It would have been very helpful in that long drawn out fight to protect that park. Yeah, I hope I can get your support for this. I know this is a beautiful space. It's not a huge park, but it's a beautiful space. Lots of soccer and bike riding goes on there. And also, just to kind of let everybody know that this is sort of a prequel to legislation that my office is working on to create an ordinance that would prohibit any development in city parks that is not directly related to the public's enjoyment of those parks. Just so for the future, when you're looking at larger, newer parks, like Hayes Woods, for example, which is also in my district, that 50 years down the road, if the city decides that, wouldn't it be convenient to have a vehicle connection between Lincoln Place and the south side, wouldn't it be easy to run that through Hayes Woods? This ordinance would make it so the city could not do that, because the only thing that you could do, develop in parks would be related to the enjoyment. So that is something that's coming down the pipe we're working on, and we'll talk with members going forward, but I just want to kind of give everyone a heads up. So more legislation to protect our parks coming soon. Thanks.
Further discussion?
Procedural question. I know we read 1620. Do we need to actually make any kind of motion there? I don't know. We kind of read it and then delved into the conversation as well.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Yeah, I know we read the second one. I didn't know if we were discussing or voting on both of them, or.
We did not make a motion to approve Bill 1620. We can certainly do that now.
Motion to approve with discussion. Is that what we said?
Motion, yeah, second, yeah.
Second.
Yeah, for both of them.
And then second. Now are we good? Okay.
Madam President, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for doing this. If I told you the story about how I had in Banksville Park, people wanted to build townhomes in the middle of the park, and I did stop it, but I don't want to say who it was because they're publicly known. But I couldn't believe that they were going to build housing, and one of the people complaining the most was a relative of the person doing it. And so I just want to thank you for doing this, because I think it's important to protect our parks. So thank you.
Thank you. I guess I can't see I probably should just read the text file. Is there a map attached to 1619 and yeah, I think we need a little more detail. So yeah, sure. I was understanding maybe from the comments that it is, if it's not designated park, that it's right of way. And then we're just kind of commissioning it as park. So yeah, I guess, yeah, sorry. That's the question. Who can answer that? Do we have someone here from planning or anybody? No. Okay. Well, if you can get me that information. Sorry?
The director's, is that her in the back?
Oh, you are back here. Do you want to come to the table so we can ask you that question?
Yeah, I don't know if she, yeah.
Seems like planning is the department for, not DPW.
I don't know what she's asking.
think it's more of a public works, because you're taking it from a right of way to designate it as
Sorry. We're sidebarring while you're coming up here, so I appreciate it. If you could just identify yourself.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
My name is Karen Abrams. I'm the Director of City Planning.
So, Director, we're not sure we have the right director at the table at all, so I apologize to you, firstly. But because I have actually spoken to planning in the past about these kinds of things, when either commissioning or decommissioning city parks, but it seems to be a kind of collaborative jurisdiction between both planning and DPW. And so if you just want to say that you can help us figure this out, that'd be great.
Happy to.
Okay, great.
Happy to.
So what we'll do is we'll try to get a map. I think that's an important element, right? Because we want to know in commissioning park, we want to then be sure that in perpetuity, it's kind of our responsibility at the table to make sure that we know exactly which pieces of the city are commissioned and not commissioned, or are right of way or not of right of way. This is the kind of body of government that has to keep track of that. So we want to make sure, I want to make sure our legislative record is right on that, and so that we're saying it the right way and we have the exact footprints. Because this has come up in my district with big parks like Rad Parks and even neighborhood parks, kind of like, 50 years from now, someone might question what is the boundary, what is not the boundary, and where we can build things, where we can't, as Councilwoman Smith was saying. So we just want to make sure that it's reflected in our legislative record correctly. So appreciate your help. I guess that's all I need for you at the table. I apologize.
Okay. I'm next too, so if I can
Yeah,
stay
I thought
here.
you were here for this. I apologize.
No, but okay.
All right.
I'll get up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all. I
Well, you
appreciate
can
it.
stay there because she's going to be for
Councilman, Councilman Wilson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so that was part of my question in terms of not seeing a map that clearly delineates where, there is this, yeah. So, but I am on the county's website, the GIS viewer, because there is a parcel number that is mentioned here, 27S15001, but it's just still not clear what that means when I look at it. It does say Panther Hall Road. I mean, I've been through the space. I know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But then, really, do I? Because just want to kind of see where the line is and everything.
So the parcel is Shenley Park, right? It was made part of the parcel that is Shenley Park. But
Yeah,
that
if that part
section
isn't commissioned, we need to know what part wasn't commissioned and that we're commissioning.
I mean, it's not a separate parcel, though.
You can describe it latitude, longitude, or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It's just hard, even on the county website, I'm like not seeing where the lines are. So anyway, I'm not sure how we rectify this. Yeah, and then we can't go by the county, depending, because. So there's just one parcel number though.
Mm-hmm.
Shenley Park is one parcel.
Shenley Park is
Oh,
one
Shenley
parcel.
Park is one parcel.
So Shenley Park is one parcel.
Oh, this is the parcel for Shenley Park.
Shenley Park is one parcel, including this.
Oh, okay.
right?
I thought this was being identified.
But what is dedicated as Shenley Park does not include this.
Okay, so.
Like Mary
yeah.
Shenley's, whatever,
Yeah.
does not include this. Even, it's part of the parcel, but it doesn't include this. So now it will. It will be all.
We've done this before.
Okay,
Similar,
so
something
for
similar.
clarity, so this 27S parcel, this is Shenley Park, and this even includes the part that you're looking to incorporate, Junction Hollow.
Right, so Junction Hollow was merged with Shenley Park, right? Before. Right, so it's like the parcel, but it was never, but that new section was never dedicated. Only the old Shenley, or like the original Shenley Park is dedicated, which is why, I mean, not the only reason, but part of the reason that the city felt like it could justify building a road for shuttles through this part of the park. They're saying, well, it's not really the park. Even though it is the park, even though it says Shenley Park, which is why then the legislation that we're working on coming down the pipe will further solidify what you can and can't do in city parks.
Okay, well, with that said, yeah, there's got to be some way to produce a map to you know,
Yeah.
understand this visually. Okay.
Yeah, we can add that to, well, definitely add that to.
And then, I mean, I don't want to hold it up, but something we can get by. Final vote. All right. Thanks for allowing derogative.
Thank you.
We were having our own time.
We were sidebarring
Trying
on
to figure out the
something,
bond stuff.
on something separate. Any further discussion? So all those in favor for Bill 1619 and 1620, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation on both bills. That takes us to Innovation, Performance, Asset Management, and Technology Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Warwick. We have one new paper, Bill 1618.
Bill 1618, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of City Planning to enter into an agreement or agreements with Clupify, Inc. to provide a sustainable procurement platform software solution for a sum not to exceed $29,000 for 1 year.
Oh, motion to approve. Yeah, sorry.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That takes us to Intergovernmental and Educational Affairs Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Gross. We have one deferred paper, Bill 1173.
Bill 1173, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewage facilities plan for proposed land development located at 4554 and 4564 Penn Avenue at the parcels numbered 49M121, 49M122, 49M123, 49M124, 49M125, 49M126.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Second.
These are the parcels we've seen many times, and the project appears stuck. There's even citations on the parcels now for overgrown weeds. They're not even maintaining it. So I'm going to hold for maybe 2 more weeks, but we're going to try to talk to the actual property owners, and then if, if we figure out if the project's actually stuck, we'll table the bill, so it doesn't keep coming back. I figured I'd try to talk to them directly before I table it. So motion to hold 2 weeks.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill be held 2 weeks. That takes us to our new papers, Bill 1610.
Bill 1610, resolution adopting plan revision to the City of Pittsburgh's official sewage facilities plan for 5425 Bond Boulevard in Allegheny County, Lot and Block 51L177.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Second.
Just pointing out that we're excited that this is a new daycare center.
Daycare?
Thank you. That's all.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1611.
Bill 1611, resolution providing for a reimbursement agreement or agreements with the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority for costs associated with the Haverhill project, where the PWSA is overseeing the design and construction of the stormwater management components, as well as the roadway replacement and rehabilitation, and has or will retain the services of a design consultant, construction management, inspection consultant, and construction contractor for the project. The city will reimburse the PWSA for this work at a cost to the city not to exceed $610,115.47.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Second.
Actually don't know this project, and I'm wondering where Haverhill is. Does anybody claim this project?
We have the director here. She
Do
can.
you? Yes. East Hills. Oh, fantastic. Yep, I'm assuming that's the A42. It may not be, it's probably a little farther out, but I'm supportive. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. And now for what we've all been waiting for. Bill 1612.
Bill 1612, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Finance to enter into a cooperation agreement or agreements with the URA for the city to provide annual contributions of up to $2,500,000 to support a 2023 issuance for affordable housing at a sum not to exceed $62,500,000 over 25 years.
Motion to approve a discussion.
Second.
Awesome. We may have, I think we have, I'm not sure how many people we have here to come to the table, so I'm just going to say, come on up. Oh, there's only one, but there's I'm just going to say for the record, there's 10 in the audience. He didn't bring all 10 with him.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jake Paulak, Deputy Mayor and Director of the Office of Management and Budget. There are folks, excuse me, from the URA here in the room with us as well if questions warrant, but I think I can start on behalf of the administration and also Director Gula, who couldn't be with us today.
Excellent. Yes, Director, please give us an overview of what we're looking at here.
Sure. So this resolution is essentially an acting resolution to follow through on appropriation already approved in the fiscal year 2023 budget. The funds were already allocated there, which would provide for the conveyance of funds to the URA for the purposes of the URA engaging in what's called a revenue bond, a borrowing, to support affordable housing production and preservation activities consistent with existing programs and long-term commitments to affordability by borrowing funds and putting them on the street, if you will, or deploying them into projects in a rapid period of about 3 years. We think we can significantly increase our efforts around supporting the financing of affordable housing. So this resolution, again, the funds were approved for this purpose in the FY 2023 budget. This is approval of an agreement to convey those appropriated funds to the URA for the purposes of meeting the debt service on proposed borrowing. The plan, as has been previously expressed publicly, but just for the record, is to use those funds to capitalize existing programs that the URA already administers for the purposes of providing financing for the construction of affordable housing. That can include gap financing for things like LIHTC deals, of which we have. We're fortunate, actually, as a city and a region, to have many approved LIHTC deals, but gaps remain on some of those projects, as well as other forms of financing to support the construction and ultimate production of those units. We don't know, nor can we know until the URA would formally go to the market the exact yield on a borrowing that can be supported by $2.5 million a year in debt service. We can estimate that to be somewhere in the range of $25 to $35 million. And the plan, again, would be to spend that over the next 3 years. The proposal, as previously discussed, would, or certainly could, contemplate a second round of similar borrowing in approximately 3 years, but that would be subject to further appropriation by council in a future budget.
Thank you, Director. Our title says $62.5 million.
That's if you multiply 2.5 by 25, unless I'm doing the math wrong, that would be the total over 25 years.
The cost.
Yes, that's the total appropriation here.
Okay,
correct.
So we would have in hand today somewhere between $25 to $35 million to spend. But by the time we paid it off, we would have spent 62.5.
Present value, yeah.
Got it.
I mean, including interest payments over time. And again, we will know the actual yield of a borrowing when they go to market. So that's an estimate. But yes, I mean, that's reflective of the cost of financing over time.
Right, but you're saying the bill allows you to borrow up to $62.5 million in spending. So if you have a better yield, you'll borrow the $35 million to get up to that cap of
this legislation would allow the URA to borrow an amount that can be supported by $2.5 million in debt service annually, whatever that maximum yield might be. That's what will be authorized here. So the better the interest rates, of course, the better for everyone.
Right. Since I've been here, we've borrowed significantly. We didn't borrow for some 20 years because we were so broke. We were using all of our funds to pay down our pension, which was bankrupting us. And then we were you can't defer fixing things forever, as we've learned. And so we started to borrow again for fixing things and building things. But I've always voted, I think this table's always voted on the city borrowing. But there is precedent here, right? When has the city council voted to pay for an authority debt?
The last time would also have involved the URA was the Pittsburgh Development Fund, sometimes referred to as PDF. Forgive me, I don't recall the exact year, but that would have been in the late 1990s, was when that was approved. Again, in that instance, as is similar here, right? The borrowing would be conducted by the authority so that the proceeds generated would accrue to the agency that would ultimately disperse them, but the city committed itself to covering the cost of debt service in that instance as well.
And so the outcomes for the public from the Pittsburgh Development Fund, I wrote PDF and then I couldn't figure out what the acronym was for. From the Pittsburgh Development Funds was, does anyone here recall?
That program or that fund supports a wide array of business development and economic development programs, and it has been used for some of the URA's longstanding revolving loan funds, and a number of the programs, that businesses and development projects in the city still take advantage of. It was an infusion of resources primarily oriented around business development.
You've got my attention with revolving loan fund. It would be amazing to see kind of what was the initial borrowing in the 90s for the Pittsburgh Development Fund, and then how many times those funds have revolved, so that you're getting more than one project out of each dollar. And so would we have a similar benefit in this borrowing? Could these be affordable housing revolving loan funds?
That's possible. A formal, and I guess I'll say like a formalized allocation plan's not been developed. Again, the intention here is to utilize these funds to support existing programs, of which there are existing affordable housing programs, of which there are many, and some of which involve loans. So I to the best of my knowledge, yes, that's a possibility.
So some of them may be loans, but some of them just may be gifts.
That's correct. Yeah, those are both options that are on the table through existing programs at the URA that support the development of affordable housing.
And how does it get determined, like how much of it is in loans and how much of it is in like contributions?
The URA board would allocate funds to various programs through its normal procedures.
Okay. I know that lots of members have questions. I asked mostly on the kind of revenue side, and also one of the questions I didn't ask was the part that was in the capital budget. Again, we already voted on this. The $2.5 million we committed. I mean, our capital budget only commits for 5 years.
Operating budget, but yes.
And so it was operating budget because it's diverting the tax revenue. It doesn't actually say it in the title, and we didn't say it already. So this was a commitment of $2.5 million, and the source of funds is the excess of the real estate transfer tax, correct?
The number.
Okay, we have to just from the general fund, right?
But
we
the number
have
does.
Seen, coincidentally, we have seen
Correct.
greater than higher revenue from the real estate transfer tax.
That's correct. If within the operating budget, one were to look at essentially the city's main financial statements, you will see the operating expenses. You will see the transfers to the capital budget in the form of pay-go, debt service, and other reserve fund transfers, and you will see a line articulating or appropriating this transfer. That transfer in that document spans the entirety of the period covered in that 5-year plan, which is 5 years. So this resolution would cement that commitment out to 25 years.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop for now because I know that this is a really big, important topic that could be of great benefit to the city, and I'm sure there are lots of questions. So, Mr. Chair, I'll give up the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was thinking we need to have a council briefing, and a legal opinion before we vote on this. And when you brought up about this happening in 1998. I think that was about the time people went to jail for the stuff that they did around housing stuff. So I'm going to be really cautious. What I want to say is, I want to make sure that we're doing this legally. So I just want to make before we vote finally on Tuesday, if we could have the briefing before that and a legal opinion, that shouldn't take long, right?
Of course, if it's council's pleasure to request those things, we can accommodate them. I didn't say
of course I do.
1998 specifically. I don't happen to recall if that
Yeah.
was the year the PDF was done. But this resolution is.
Let me just say this.
Sure.
I don't think you would ever do something like that intentionally. Let me just say that. But I do want to make sure we're protected, that's all. And so for that, I want a legal opinion, and I think that she could have that before Tuesday, that's all, before our final vote.
I'm sure that can be accommodated as well, but just for the sake of the record, it's a simple appropriation of funds. The designation of the funds for this purpose was already accomplished in the budget, and this is directing them to a use. So there's no action that council is taking here today that it doesn't routinely take when appropriating funds, if that provides any comfort, but I understand what you're looking for.
Yeah, okay. I just really want to make sure that I feel comfortable that knowing that we're taking on the responsibility we're saying that, yes, we'll pay the debt for the URA.
No, you're saying that
So tell me.
you're saying you will transfer $2.5 million a year
To the
for
URA.
25 years to the URA for the purposes of supporting their efforts. They are the ones
if
who would be
their
legally obligated to pay the debt.
They're legally obligated.
They would issue
Okay.
debt, and thus they would be obligated to repay it.
Okay.
The city, if this resolution were to be adopted, would be obligated to transfer $2.5
Okay,
million.
but this is not, I mean, we haven't done it since, you said, years ago, so it's not typical, it's not every day. So for me, this is something different, so I'd like to just make sure.
Yeah, I understand.
We as council are protected.
Just for the sake of clarity, right? What would be committed to here would be an annual transfer. What the URA would commit to through the issuance of debt would be the repayment of a debt. I think we all would agree here they would use the funds we transfer to pay the debt consistent with this plan, but we would not be accepting liability for the debt.
And do you have the number of people that need housing in the city of Pittsburgh, affordable housing? Do you have some idea of who that is?
There's actually a forthcoming update to the housing needs assessment that can answer that question more specifically than I can.
Okay.
I can say that number has grown since the housing needs assessment was initially conducted several years ago, and that is in part the impetus for pursuing this. Right, we've seen the need for affordable units grow at an increasing pace. And certainly outstrip the production of new units, which is why a concentrated intervention to grow the number of units in a short period of time and then pay those costs over the longer duration of time is, I think, prudent in order to essentially catch up, right, to close the gap between the demand for units and our pace of production.
And the one thing I do want to continue to advocate for is Councilwoman Gross and I talk about housing for that, like the co-op housing that we have in Sheridan. And I really would love to see something like that expanded in the Sheridan community.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great. It's one of the lowest crime areas in Sheridan. The homes are all occupied. I mean, it's an amazing development. So I would really love to make sure that we have some commitment to looking into doing something like that.
There are a lot of, there's a diverse array of ways, formats in which affordable housing can be delivered. And I think, the administration, the URA, and the city in general, including council, I know through your previous discussions, are committed to an all of the above strategy to solving this problem. I think
good.
our objectives here, would be to increase the supply of affordable units by as large a margin and as quickly as possible to head off this issue. In some cases, the easiest way to do that is gap financing for LIHTC projects or projects that are also leveraging other funds to keep things moving as quickly to construction and deployment as possible. But of course, there are also opportunities to explore different mixes or styles or methods for deploying affordability.
And so I'm not going to hold, we had discussed about holding it, so we're not going to hold, we're going to try to get it up for final vote on Tuesday, but I want to make sure that we are committed to getting a briefing scheduled and an opinion from the law department. If not, then I will not allow it to go on the agenda for Tuesday unless we have those things prior. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Councilman Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then I think you bring up a good point about how many people, require or in need of affordable housing in Pittsburgh. And I just want to reference, we had those numbers during the, I'm not sure if every council member, had the briefing, but I think we voted on, what was that, the housing study? What's that called?
Housing needs assessment?
Housing needs assessment. So that was redone. I know during my briefing, the numbers were miscalculated in the past briefing. Those numbers were 20,000. That was miscalculated. And the actual number at that point should have been 13,000, and that's remained steady. So that's 13,000 individuals of what I remember, I think, or households. And then the voucher program is, I believe there's upwards of 8,000 people who qualify for a voucher, have a voucher, that are waiting to find housing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Both of those numbers sound about correct to me.
Yeah.
I don't have them in front of me.
Anyway, I just wanted to go through.
And in particular, you raise an important point about unused vouchers.
Yeah, definitely.
We have seen some limited success, but something we'd like to continue to build upon in connecting 80% AMI units to source of income, non-discrimination language in development agreements so that, for example, a unit that is restricted for 80% AMI rents can, in many parts of the city, certainly in those parts of the city where development is occurring most rapidly, a housing choice voucher can pay up to the 80% AMI rent, so you can turn an 80% AMI unit basically into a unit that actually provides a much deeper level of affordability by combining the types of restrictions and incentives that the URA can provide through financing to create that 80% AMI unit with the project-based voucher that can be provided by the Housing Authority to produce a unit that is in effect 15% AMI affordable or even lower. So
yeah, that would be great for now, and in the future to create that, to fill that gap.
Right. It's an important priority.
But there's another program that, so if you're going to create that program, there's another program that I really appreciated in the past, was where maybe I probably could get a nod if it's still happening, which is the one where there were loans to landlords, like small percentage loans of landlords to help them meet the criteria that HUD would need for an individual who has a voucher to stay in that property. Yeah. And what I liked about it is that it also, they had to commit to, offering that property.
Sure.
Or, be within the voucher program for X amount of time. I can't remember what it was, but is that, I'm getting the nod. It still happens. Love it.
The program still exists.
Love it, because
it may or may not be eligible for bond funding because of the nature of bonds, but funds are fungible, right? So to the extent that bond funds can support the types of assistance that produce new units, then other resources would be available to support those kinds of programs.
Yeah.
So this would improve our ability to do all of the above.
Right, because that's activating money that's already existing for.
Correct.
And that's the key. Like the more
activating those. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Everything we can do to activate those vouchers by either producing new units that will accept them, or supporting existing units that don't presently accept them in moving to accepting them through other types of support, is critical in tapping that highly valuable resource.
That's critical. So what could this bond money, what could this bond money speak to? Like how much could it speak to?
It can finance the production of additional units that could, through the process of providing support to those projects, require a source of income, non-discrimination, or even explicit project-based voucher participation that would create a new supply of units that could accept those vouchers.
I'm sorry. So can you just say that more? Sorry, I was just I got distracted. I'll be honest. I really want to know the answer. That's why I'm asking you. Just repeat.
I'll use an example. So there have been some recent development projects or proposals where, as part of community benefits agreements, we meaning the administration and the URA and others involved, have negotiated that as part of the approvals of a project, they would either directly work with the housing authority to use project-based vouchers, or at a minimum, agree to accept a voucher from a prospective tenant who brought one in an 80% AMI unit, because 80% AMI units in large portions of the city that are part of HUD's enhanced payment standard areas, an 80% AMI rent and the maximum amount of voucher can pay are roughly, they line up with one another, right? So the reason I bring all that up is that to the extent we can incentivize the creation of units with an 80% AMI rent or lower in areas that are eligible for the enhanced payment standard, and couple that incentivization with a requirement that they accept vouchers or even go steps further and proactively apply for project-based vouchers, these funds could create units that will accept an 80% AMI rent, and the voucher can cover the difference for a low-income individual whose income may be much lower than that. The incentive makes it possible for the landlord to offer the unit for 80% AMI. The landlord's paid the 80% AMI rent. The voucher covers the difference, and the individual pays essentially what they're capable of paying. So we can increase the supply of units that can meet those criteria. And that addresses your specific question, right, which is how this might help us deploy that backlog of vouchers, which is one benefit. There's also, of course, the broader benefit of just increasing the supply of affordable units, including for people who don't potentially meet the criteria to accept a voucher, but they could also find an affordable apartment.
Yeah.
Do you want to vote yes on the bill today, or you want to vote yes on the having a legal opinion?
Are we gonna, is Council President gonna motion for the legal opinion?
Are you waiting for me? I'm not doing anything.
I'm about to say.
No, I'm not doing anything.
Council Wilson still has the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have the floor, but
I need to go. I have
needs to
my.
go. I mean, I don't know if she's going to
You want
register.
to register an I vote?
I'm not going to hold it.
Did you make a motion for a legal opinion, or is that something that is already?
No, we're just going to work on it. I'm going to schedule a briefing and get a, Madam Clerk, will you submit a request for a legal opinion from the law department? Formal
is there a
request. Thank
motion
you.
hold or just
And then,
to move forward?
No, sorry.
and then that's it. And then on Tuesday, we should have a final vote.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So do you wish to
Register an I vote.
register an I vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Thank you.
apologies, I have to go to my
Councilman Wilson?
kindergartner's graduation.
I was able to move mine 12:30 to 1. So.
We're not going to hold it.
All right, thanks. So,
You think I should?
so that, I'm hearing that program. And then what other programs, and specifically, in terms of from the ground up, or are we going to use those funds to actually build housing? Or is it all going to be within more programs similar to how we support people with the HOF fund?
So if you'd like, we can certainly, there are some folks from the URA who might be able to speak in the room who can speak to that with a greater level of specificity, but I can tell you, generally speaking, the intention here is to use these funds to capitalize, meaning put additional money into existing programs. So the URA has numerous existing programs that provide gap financing for the construction of affordable housing, the preservation of housing. Some of those programs have been longstanding, others have been established as part of ARPA allocations, and we would use the proceeds of this bond to increase the level of funding available through those existing avenues. So anything that you're presently familiar with there would be the type of program that will be funded here.
So, I don't know. I mean, we just allocated we have the ARPA funding that's coming over, and you can include those numbers in this question I'm going to ask you. But it'd be good to know without ARPA versus with ARPA, like how much do we currently spend on those programs if this bond didn't go through? Like just a lump sum.
Of the roughly $70 million in ARPA funds that were directed to the URA, I would say the majority of them are or connect to housing supports. I would without having the numbers in front of me, I'd ballpark that at roughly $40 million there. There are other programs, of course, as well.
Okay, around 40 million of the 70 were, coming on.
I could get you a more specific answer to that question.
But more specifically, even just in general, if ARPA never happened, what do we what was the plan to current? I'm trying to understand, like, how much are we going to boost those programs?
Well, I actually have an updated number here, that the projected proceeds been a bit more refined to between 25 and 42 million. So regardless of the baseline, just for the sake of clarity, right, this would be a between 25 and 42 million dollar increase in the funds available over the next 3 years.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand that. That's why I'm trying to make a comparison, like what we currently spend in those programs and how much this would.
Yeah, as it relates to current spending, we would have to ask someone from the URA to come to the table to answer that question.
Okay. I feel bad taking up time, but I don't know if these questions answered. All right, let's do the state your name for the record thing.
My name's Evan Miller. I'm the Director of Housing at the URA.
Sushila Nimani Stanger, Executive Director, URA.
Kiana Wassler, Chief Housing Officer of the URA.
Great, thank you all for coming. Anyone, can you answer that question about just like, including our, I like to see just the general, like, and then I guess it would have to be assumption as well. Like, how much would we have how much are we currently spending on these programs? Then you include ARPA, and then how much, I don't know, in the case that we never had ARPA, what do we have continued to spend? I'm trying to get a handle on, how much is going to boost these programs.
If I could, Councilman, just very quickly, I double checked my math and I was pretty close. So there's about $42 million in ARPA spending that is dedicated to housing. So that answers your question about ARPA. As it relates to other sources that the URA deploys, I'll let them speak to that.
Yeah, well, an also interesting question just came up is like, well, that ARPA has to be spent by a certain time, but if we get that on their contract, it doesn't have to all be spent, right? Like, I guess I'm assuming like we don't have to spend that ARPA.
Funds have to be under contract by the end of next year, but then from there are 2 further years for them to be fully deployed. So it would be, I think I can safely speak for the UR and say that their intention would be to get those funds under contract to support projects that are moving forward within the next year and a half, of the understanding that the actual expenditure then may take place may bleed into 25 and 26.
Yeah, that's a separate conversation, but I just want to bring that up. So, okay.
So in addition to the ARPA, we have the Housing Opportunity Fund. Right. And so I can defer to Evan, who can speak to the allocation plan.
Yeah, outside of the ARPA infusion, annually we have the Housing Opportunity Fund, which is $10 million right now that goes towards the programs that Director Pollack was referring to. And then outside of the Housing Opportunity Fund, we receive home investment partnership funding from the city. Around $2 million, I believe, is what the 2023 allocation was. And then some CDBG as well for rental and for sale development, and a little bit of CDBG, probably around $400,000 for home rehabs for modifications for seniors. So we're talking about a much larger sum of money with the potential proceeds of this bond issuance to support these programs and possibly allow us to invest in magnitudes greater than what we currently do.
12 million, and what was the other one you calculated? So 10 and the additional 2, and then.
And CDBG was probably around 3 million.
Okay, so we still have, I don't know, another 20. How much is CDBG?
About $3 million.
Okay, so we still have another 15 or 25 to go in terms of what we currently spend. You said 40 million,
right? There's 42 million in one-time ARPA funds.
Oh, one-time ARPA funds, but the total.
And then there's
these programs that we're gonna.
If I followed Evan's math correctly, there's maybe another roughly 15 million a year that is dedicated to these purposes. Again, that's subject to annual reappropriation and is dependent on the amount that we're allocated by the federal government in home and CDBG funds, which annually ticks down, right? And so it's about 15 million now. That number could drop as the allocation were to reduce.
How many programs are we talking about
That we currently operate?
That these funds, this bond money would go into?
I don't think until we get to the point of going to the market and seeing how much it's going to yield, can we truly speculate on how many of the current existing programs will fund. But I think if we're looking towards development, we've basically got a program that supports multifamily development, which is called our rental gap program, and then a for sale development program, which is for single family.
Okay, but how many programs are there that we're allocating to currently that are possibly like
currently? I would say 7 or 8.
7 or 8. Okay. All right. What's the most important one, you think?
I think they're all very important. It's kind of it reaches across the spectrum of what affordable housing is. We have some programs that help renters who are in crisis that just need to ensure that they're not going to get evicted next month. But then we have programs that support massive developments that are going to deliver affordable units for the next 40 years. So I think we see the greatest demand dollars-wise from that rental gap program, and also probably the most jammed up projects that can't move forward until they identify some other funding.
All right, great. Anything to add to that?
I would agree with Evan's assessment that what we frequently find, right, is that there are projects that are relatively advanced in their development. They've received allocations of other types of funding, like LIHTC allocations, but they need to secure some funding to close a gap to get to actual construction, right? And so those are the most turnkey, if you will, affordable housing projects that we have. And so that's maybe the most critical area of need to unlock other sources of funding and other types of capital investment to translate that directly into units. We often spend a lot of time, right, multiple years in some cases, getting those projects to fruition for lack of funds to close that gap. So a major infusion of cash that could deliver on some of those projects in a compressed timeline would probably be the biggest kind of injection of new units to the market. But the programs that support the development of for sale housing are equally important to providing a healthy, affordable housing mix. So depending on how you look at the question, there are a couple different ways to answer it, but that's probably the biggest kind of sticking point in the pipeline of new units, if you will.
Okay, great.
I would also add that we look to preservation of existing units, so housing preservation plus the production of new units. And so any additional funding would allow us to be nimble, particularly in the area of housing preservation.
Okay, thanks. Well, I appreciate you coming to the table and look forward to hearing more about the program. I'm in full support, and I want to register an I vote in the case I leave before this is over. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing none, second round, Councilwoman Gross, and then Madam President.
Thank you all. I was waiting to hear that part about housing preservation. So I'm going to say what I've always said since 2016, 17, when we first started talking about your resolution to create the Affordable Housing Task Force, Councilman, which is that new construction is the most expensive way to house the least amount of people, taking the most amount of time. And it's gotten worse since then. So I think when we started talking about this years ago and created the Housing Opportunity Task Force and had a lot of testimony, had some 80 citizens looking at the tools that we need in our toolbox. The cost to build a new apartment unit was $250,000. I'm told today it's $600,000 per apartment, right? And so when we're talking about the LIHTC deals, which I think Director Pollack emphasized, those are typically 45 to 50 units, and I've been really ecstatic to have several built in my district since I've served here, 3 so far. And one is a priority for senior housing, one is a priority for veterans, and one is a priority for people with disabilities. And it's wonderful. And they're right in the heart of thriving neighborhoods with access to food and community and bus lines, and we're really grateful for them. But it's like maybe 150 people, right? in 8 years. And I know that we're doing a little better at getting more LIHTC awards. We also have to kind of wait and beg for the 9% LIHTCs from the state. So, I give the administration credit for getting more of those in the pipeline. But new construction is $600,000 per unit. And so what I've asked the Housing Authority during our budget hearing, and I'm going to ask you, is what is this bond going to be used for purchasing existing units? There are units out there for sale that have tenants that are at $150,000 per $200,000 per unit to buy. And they're coming online. They're maybe, from the 1980s, some of them 1990s, but they're in perfectly good shape. The revenue from the rent, fully occupied, 60-unit buildings, would also help provide cash for the projects that we want to do. So somebody tell me that you're looking at existing units. I'll ask you, Sushila. She's the executive director.
Yeah, we are looking at housing preservation and production of new units.
We actually, may I?
Sure.
Okay.
I have to say for the record that it seems like some members know a whole lot more than other members here in this discussion, which is, I'm surprised that we haven't already had a briefing. Because we've always have a briefing with bond counsel when we are asked to borrow $60 million. And so I think it's a little odd that we're at the table having to have this long discussion about the details because we haven't had a briefing about it beforehand.
We are going to have a briefing, and I'm going to hold for a briefing. So I just want to
because otherwise we're going to be here for like 3 more hours.
Okay. I wasn't going to hold, but I heard what you said.
Great. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, I was simply going to say, to your point of preservation, even most recently, I forget how many units it was, Director, but we recently moved to assist a unit on the south side or the west end, which was going to go up for the private market. And the URA stepped in to say, wait a minute, we don't want these units to be converted into a private market. It's maybe, I forget how many units, maybe 20 or so, in an apartment building that we're going to go private. And the URA has stepped in to say, we're going to work to preserve those units as affordable housing. So we are doing that. We're also, I forget the name of the program, but we created a program to actually assist developers to keep units as affordable housing units throughout the city. So you're correct that it is cheaper to preserve than it is
But
to
I didn't
build
ask
new.
about preserving, to be technical about it. I asked about purchasing buildings which may or may not be currently deed restricted affordable housing, right? So there are 4 market, full price rentals for sale at cheaper than we can build new construction, half the price. And we could convert them into being low income, and we can retain the ownership. So there's 2 differences here. Not only is the LIHTC deals in all new construction, specifically LIHTC. I guess I'll need to ask about the new construction, but the LIHTC deals, not only are they $600,000 per unit and take a very long time, right? New construction takes a while, 2 to 3 years to get the units online. We don't own it. Sorry? We don't own it, right? And so even with the HOF, we're asking now for a 40-year deed restriction, which is great. It's longer than a 20 or a 30. But those are privately owned, and they end. And so what I haven't heard, I've heard a little bit about preservation of existing units, and I think I heard kind of working with property owners. But still what I'm hearing is that those property owners would still retain it. And so if you could go into more detail, are you talking about just extending their deed restriction for, and for how many decades and for how much money? And then separately, if we bought a building, we would own it and it would be permanently affordable. So again, I think this is briefing level detail, which I think is merited to ask us to borrow for $62.5 million. So no.
So the URA doesn't typically purchase and then operate the housing development. So that would be out of our mission to do. What we could do is work with a potential buyer to seek to preserve a development that's already affordable and help fund the gap to preserve it.
You didn't mention
Yeah.
what the deed restrictions would look like.
We would include a related deed restriction like we do with all housing preservation projects.
And typically, how many years are you asking for?
Is it typically 40? 40 years? Yeah, that's typical, is 40 years.
For the HOF, we've been asking for 40, which is higher than, I think, it's higher than the IZ, and it's higher than, I think, your other LIHTCs, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's 40 years on the Penn Matilda project. I don't know if there's 40 years on the Morningside School. I don't know if there's 40 years on Doughboy. Do you? You did the LIHTCs, yes?
I believe, yes. I believe sometime around maybe 2018, I think PHFA increased their restriction period to 40 years. So we're matching that. We do have a preference for permanent affordability, if at all possible in projects.
Can you give me some examples of the permanent affordability? That would be helpful.
It would just be a deed restriction that has 99 years. I think thinking about HOF funded projects, some very mission-based properties that we know are going to remain in service to what they're currently doing have accepted that.
Can only think of City of Bridges, and those haven't been multi-units, right? They've been for sale.
So any for sale project will have permanent affordability, and that is in part due to the enabling legislation and how it speaks to for sale development. When it comes to multifamily residences at Wood Street here in downtown Pittsburgh committed to permanent affordability, they're a mission-based group. I can't think off the top of my head of another rental deal that did it, but it would certainly be highlighted and I'm sure appreciated by the advisory board when there is permanent affordability.
Right. So you've told me that you would consider, basically, there could be housing preservation. But it doesn't sound like you have a plan for how much of what you're going to do. Or if you do have a plan, you're not saying it.
We still haven't even priced the bond, right? So we're working with our subject matter experts in order to price the bond. And because we have very relevant housing programs, we don't see the need to create a new program because they do meet the needs of residents, developers, small landlord fund, as Councilman Wilson mentioned.
Okay, so I'm going to go to some technicalities then, instead of uses of funds. So in this case, which is different than the other bonds that we voted on in the last 6-7 years, who is the city the issuer?
So can I make a point of clarity?
Yeah,
We are not voting on a bond.
I know, but we're voting to divert 25 years of funds to pay for it.
We are, so the URA, the URA board has voted to issue a bond. The URA
But
board
doesn't have the revenue to pay for it.
did meet with bond counsel. We had a briefing on this so that we could take the appropriate steps. This resolution is for the city of Pittsburgh to send $2.5 million to the URA.
For 25 years?
For 25 years, yes, to the tune of approximately $62 million.
Just, Councilwoman, if I
But the city is not issuing debt.
Yes, that was a bit of an illustrative point, councilperson. You illustrated, thank you. And so the bond, your URA bond counsel is who?
It's Andrew Marr with Denton's, Cohen, and Grigsby, who is here today if there's questions for him.
And back to the guarantee, right? So the URA board voted to issue this bond already, and already had a briefing with the URA bond council. But the URA does not have its revenue, or do you have revenue if we don't vote on this today? Could you pay back that bond if we don't vote on this today?
I don't want to speculate for the rest of the board.
Councilman, I believe the board vote was conditional on these funds being appropriated, right? So the board, as I understand it, the URA board took an action that authorized staff to begin advancing this process, but that the bond could only be issued.
And to enter into a cooperation agreement with the city.
Right.
Yes.
So were
two
these
votes.
funds not allocated, that vote would not result in an issuance. It just enabled the preparatory work, if I believe. I'm correct. Okay.
Well, I'll just sum by saying I'm really enthusiastic about funding more affordable housing. I'm really enthusiastic to see the results of the ARPA funds that we've already transferred to the URA around affordable housing. I thought it was actually more like 53 million out of the almost 90 million in total that we transferred out of ARPA, or we allocated at least to the URA. And that in addition to the, I think it was 2.8 CDBG, from last year that we had some talk at the table about. And I would love to see this in, that we could discuss here publicly with our residents on what this package looks like, because that's a lot of pots, different disparate pots of money. And I don't think we've given the public a good idea of how they fit together, and give them an opportunity to, we haven't discussed it here, really. And so I feel like we need an update on the other pots, an idea of how this pot fits in. Again, maybe there are people who understand this or have seen it in more detail than I have. But, this is one of my favorite topics, and I'm sorry, I just want to know more about it. So that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Motion to hold for a briefing and a legal opinion that will be drafted by our solicitor, Friesen, working with Madam Clerk.
Second.
And we'll try to get that before Tuesday, right?
If you're saying that it'll be drafted by the solicitor, your solicitor, then I can't speak for him.
No,
as to
well,
whether-
I'm saying they'll have it done.
Oh, if you mean the
soon.
briefing, yes, we can do that.
Yeah, they'll have everything done as soon as possible. But I just want to make sure on your end, you make sure it's expedited on your end. That's it. So Sheila, you don't get to speak unless somebody calls on you.
Discussion?
Thank you.
Director?
Wait, I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I made a motion. So I wanted
It was seconded.
Seconded. Do we vote on it?
Your motion was to hold the bill?
Yeah.
For a briefing and a legal opinion.
Legal opinion, which we hope to have by Tuesday. We'll put back on the agenda for final vote on Tuesday if we have all that ready. Okay? You okay with that?
Clerk, that's, no, because if we do that, it'll come back next week.
So if
It
I
can't go on
don't make the
Tuesday.
motion, could I just,
If you make the motion to hold for briefing and legal opinion, once we get it, even if.
and so we
didn't
can
get it-
recess the meeting Tuesday though and can bring it back on Wednesday?
If that's what you choose.
If we
We
want
could
to.
recess today.
Today's meeting and
Yeah.
have it Tuesday to bring it back here
Okay, can we do
for
that?
preliminary and then push
You okay
it
with
to
that?
Tuesday.
We could recess today's meeting.
Yeah, are you okay with
Have
that?
all that for Tuesday, gavel in this meeting on Tuesday, vote it, and then it'll
You
come
okay
on to the agenda for final vote on
Are
Tuesday.
you okay with that?
I'd be okay with that.
Okay. That's what we're gonna do then. Then I don't need the motion to hold.
No.
Okay. So then let's do that.
So okay,
So-
so we're still preliminary voted, but you're going to recess the meeting.
Right. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm gonna abstain until I have the information.
Okay, so
That's all.
withdraw your motion, Madam
I'll
President?
withdraw my motion.
Can you withdraw?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're back to, we're still at the
We're gonna
motion to
recess this
approve.
meeting.
Motion to recess?
It would be a motion to recess. It takes its priority motion.
Motion to recess.
You said motion to approve first.
Well,
Okay.
we still have a motion to approve on the table. So she withdrew her motion to hold the bill. So we still have the motion to approve. We're not going to vote
And
the
I said
approval,
motion to recess.
which is the priority.
I'm gonna watch my
need a
grandkids 5
second.
days a week.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting has been recessed.